As we get you up and running on this busy Thursday, Buck-ons and Buck-offs, a tradition unlike any other here on the show. The people who has earned the pat on the back, who has earned a kick in the hindquarters, including the Texas Longhorns. Their offense disappearing last night in Fort Worth. Another poor first half. They rallied, but not enough late. TCU takes down the Longhorns. We'll talk plenty of college basketball as we approach the end of the regular season in the Big 12 and around the country. Also a successful debut for Kevin Durant. Speaking of Longhorns, buck on to him. A successful Phoenix Suns debut last night. We'll talk some hoops, some football, NFL scouting combine, monster news from the top of the NFL draft yesterday involving one of the top players in the April draft. Also the on-field drills begin today. The workouts begin in Indianapolis. We'll certainly dive in there, plus all of the top stories of the morning and conversations to be had. Appreciate you being there, however you find us on this Thursday morning, maybe 104.9 FM, AM 1260, 101.9 FM, maybe where you're listening to us. We always make it easy to find us digitally as well on your Horn app. Just download it to your phone and take us wherever you go. Always on your smart speaker. Just tell the speaker, hey, turn on 104.9 The Horn, and we are always streaming live and local and digital, also on the Twitch channel at hornfm.com. Mr. Godbolt.
Good morning to the soldiers at Fort Hood, Texas, the soldiers in the state of Texas, and all those that fight for us each and every day. Thank you so very, very much for what you do. It is appreciated. Thank you very much. And, yes, the weather is, we've got lightning, a little bit of thunder, and this was maybe since I've moved out to dripping, this is probably the worst day of driving that I had.
Really?
Including ice. This morning was
foggy.
It was a little foggy, and the rain was really coming down hard. And some of the corners that I'm used to going down, I kind of know my way kind of blindly there. But, boy, that rain pelting off that windshield this morning at a certain time was awful.
Yeah, well.
Plus, it was trash can day for me. Get those cans out there as they sit by the gate. Well,
you came in from dripping. I came in from South Austin, and it was just kind of misty.
Yeah, I had real rain
wow.
back there in the valley there.
And then as I crossed Mopac and came up 360 west here to the Horn headquarters, fog, really dense fog rolled in and cruised up the hill, and visibility got very, very, very poor. So that's what we're going to deal with this morning. It's kind of a mixture of
take your time, I'd say that.
Fog and humidity and rain and all of the above. So, yes, plan accordingly. Get up and out.
It was hot yesterday.
It was muggy, about 1,000% humidity.
I was waiting for the rain yesterday. We never came.
It is, it didn't rain yesterday, just humid as heck, and the rain's going to come today for sure, and a chance for some severe weather this evening, as we mentioned. But, severe problems for the Texas Longhorns last night in college basketball. Their hopes of a Big 12 regular season title were dashed with another poor first half and bad shooting night in Fort Worth. We'll dive into college hoops. We'll certainly talk all the top stories of the morning as we get it cranked up. And we will take your buck-ons and buck-offs. Who has earned that pat on the back? Who has earned that kick in the rear? You decide each and every Thursday. Specs text line, 512-337-3776 is how you do it. You can also get us on our social media pages at the Horn ATX on Twitter. However you want to get to us, get us those buck-ons and buck-offs. We get this thing cranked up. Man, so that's pretty weird. You pretty interesting that you've driven in severe ice storms.
Yes.
This morning was the most
that was the most fearful drive for me. I mean, almost, because there's no, and in certain spots there on where I live, you can't turn on. You can't turn on. Wait till the storm stops for a little while. There's no pull-offs at some spots.
Huh. Well, I
don't like pulling off at 4 o'clock in the morning anywhere.
No.
Just stopping and waiting around, but
it's never a good idea.
I was thinking about it. My goodness.
Ty Henderson is here as well, our producer, as we crank this thing up. He had Texas on a backdoor cover last night, so he's feeling pretty good. Little Jabari Rice 3 at the buzzer for no reason. Cover the back door.
Yeah, that was nice. But I'm
pull the cover out of a bad loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I like the effort, though, in the comeback. At least they made it close at the end.
We got to start playing better defense in the first half.
Sort of like football. Like these close efforts in nose to guard. They've lost 3 of the last 5, and they've played terribly in the first half of games. And
their offense has disappeared.
Well, some of their starters. Timmy Allen has 6 points in the whole game. You get Kid Mitchell in there. He's got 2 points.
Marcus Carr didn't do much.
Well, Marcus Carr scored 10 points on 16 shots.
Yeah.
He's gone into a shooting slump here late. Yeah, we'll talk the ills of Texas basketball, not obviously peaking at the time they want to be. That is for sure. Let's get to the headlines, concluding that game in Fort Worth last night. All the news to start your Thursday morning. UBEO Business Services brings it to you. College hoops, Longhorns' hopes of at least a share of the Big 12 regular season championship came to an end last night in Fort Worth. TCU held off another second-half Horns rally and spoiled the title dream, 75-73 final. Frustrating trend continuing for Texas. Once again, against a ranked Big 12 opponent. A poor first half. Found themselves down double digits at the intermission, 44-32. But as usual, they clamped down, made the adjustments, played better defense in the second half, rallied, cut the TCU lead to 3 with 1:07 to go on a Tyrese Hunter three-pointer. But TCU guard Damian Baugh capped a 24-point night with a pair of free throws. After a putback by Brock Cunningham, cut it back to 3. Frogs closed out the win with a breakaway dunk against Texas pressure by Emmanuel Miller. He had 20 on the night. Horns fall to 22-8, 11-6 now in Big 12 play for head coach Rodney Terry.
This time of year in March, you're playing for seeding. You're playing to put yourself in the best position for the big prize. And I do, still feel like we have a team that can win the big prize. So we got to still continue to fight and want to come out and compete at a high level.
Texas will wrap up their regular season against the Big 12 champion Kansas Jayhawks this coming Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Elsewhere in college hoops last night, K-State whipped Oklahoma 85-69. They pulled into a three-way tie for second place with Texas, along with Baylor. There at the end of the regular season. Also, second-ranked Alabama clinched the outright SEC regular season championship. They rallied from 17 down and come back all the way and beat Auburn, their rivals, 90-85 in overtime. NBA, successful Phoenix debut for Kevin Durant last night in Charlotte. He scored 23. Devin Booker scored 37. Suns looking pretty good. They roll past the Charlotte Hornets 105-91. Milwaukee Bucks won their 16th straight game. Easy win over Orlando last night. Jason Tatum scored 41 to lead Boston past Cleveland. And, of course, the Houston Rockets lost again. They've lost 11 in a row, this time to Memphis. In the NFL, on-field drills and workouts begin today at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. 3 former Longhorns will take part as defensive linemen and linebackers are first up. Keandre Coburn, Mar Ojimo, and DeMarvion Overshown will take part in the workouts. First of 4 days of on-field work, wrapping up Sunday. Ahead of the workouts, major development yesterday with the news that former Georgia star Jalen Carter, one of the top prospects in next month's NFL draft, has been charged with reckless driving and racing in connection with a tragic crash that killed a teammate and a recruiting staff member back in January in Athens. The Clark County Police Department issued an arrest warrant that alleges Carter was racing his 2021 Jeep Tomahawk, or Trackhawk, I should say, against a 2021 Ford Expedition driven by the recruiting staffer, 24-year-old Chandler LaCroix, which led to the January 15th accident. Yeah, on the day Jalen Carter was supposed to meet with the media, he is charged with 2 misdemeanors. We'll talk about that, how it impacts the top of the draft, and certainly a tragedy there, and senseless, the loss of 2 lives.
Even more senseless if he was actually there during the crash, which he said he heard it back at his apartment. I don't know how you do that. How'd you get back there in 20 seconds or whatever? Yeah. But if he was there, and that guy, what a coward, if he left that scene, and he's got his his teammates in a car and the young lady, and he left that scene and didn't go down to aid and help those people.
It's going to be a much discussed conversation and how it affects his draft stock and status.
And he wasn't drinking. He was the guy. He was one of the ones that didn't have any drinks in that.
Yeah,
the young lady had drinks, and the others in the other car had been drinking, but that dude wasn't drunk. I'm not saying that's an excuse, but even more of an excuse, he wasn't drinking. He's sober at the time. If he's there at that crash and he didn't go down to help them and took off, and then came back later.
Did we know he wasn't drinking?
Yeah, he wasn't intoxicated. The others in the car, the other car.
Yeah, he came back to the scene and was tested
later.
An hour later after the incident. But yes, I mean, obviously he has not been forthright and truthful in this case, and obviously the charges come. But they're both misdemeanors. I'll say off the top, I don't think he'll be drafted in the top 4. I don't think there's any doubt about that. These are going to be misdemeanor crimes. He was going to be charged with racing. I mean, we talk about judgment and all the things we've talked about, but at the same time, he'll still be one of the top players off the board, and we'll talk about that. But obviously, the Longhorns picking a bad time to go into a slump offensively, and a lot of trends that we've seen of late have not been reversed, and it's frustrating to get to a game, a must-win opportunity on the road. It's there for you, and your best players, the guys you've relied on all year long, are just not there. I mean, Marcus Carr is really struggling with his shot. I don't know if he's played nearly 1,000 minutes this year. He leads Texas over 33 minutes a game. I don't know if that's added up or what. Timmy Allen, again,
the toughness just wasn't there. I mean, they got out-rebounded 46-28. That, we talked about that yesterday. You better be tough going into this game because TCU, they don't have great three-point shooters, but they are going to be tough on the boards, and they were.
Well, we talked about how going into the game, TCU was 350th in the country in three-point shooting. And wouldn't you know it, they make 4 of their first 5. I mean, they come out just blasting the threes. You're like, wait a second, what is going on? And that helped TCU build an early lead. A team that doesn't normally make three-pointers made 4 of their first 5 they attempted. And Texas was playing their typical early lazy defense. And what do you know? You give up 44 points in the first half, which is way too many. And you score 32, but then
very similar to the Tech game. Go ahead and shoot. You're not going to make it.
Yeah,
you guys aren't that good shooting 3-pointers. Go ahead.
The kid Micah Peavy doesn't. Maybe he shoots 23% from 3. So I mean, numbers would tell you let him take that shot. Don't let him get to the basket, and he made them. He made 2. He went 2 for 2, and the other guy went 2 for 2 to start it, and so they were off to a good start.
You're not supposed to lose a game that Mike Miles Jr. or that dude has 1 point.
Well,
you're supposed to win that game.
Damian Ball. Well, when your leading scorer scores 10 on 16 shots, I mean, you did a nice job on Mike Miles, but you didn't get much. I mean, at the end, it was a typical trend. Your offense was, or your entire team was pretty poor early. You make your halftime adjustments, you rally, but then in the biggest moments, your offense has no identity. I mean, what are you offensively when you need a big bucket? Who you're going to? Jabari Rice is your most consistent player, and he made some big plays last night to help. But he's the 6th man off the bench. When you need big buckets in big moments, which were there for you, the Longhorns really do not have a go-to play. They don't have a go-to player. They don't have what are you? What are you going to do when you need big buckets?
Has Mitchell always been a starter this entire year?
Yeah, for sure. Dylan Mitchell has been, and he has regressed. I mean, again, speaking of guys who maybe have hit a freshman wall. I mean, these are among the issues of Texas right now.
It was like Greg Brown when Greg Brown used to play, but Greg Brown used to score more than that, I would think, if I remember.
Some good defensive plays in the second half.
He did nothing last night.
He started 2 points.
I mean, he's your starter, and he's your 5-star freshman who was fabulous for good stretches of the month of January, early in the year. I mean, he's not bringing much to you at this point. He's your most athletic big, and you're just not getting much out of him.
No.
Christian Bishop's not bringing much to the table. He missed some big free throws down the stretch last night.
I'm more worried about him.
I mean, it's a team that is trending down.
It's a bad time of the year.
Well, guess what? I mean, these back-to-back losses, and you said 3 of the last 5. You're now in a spot where if you don't beat Kansas Saturday, and Baylor and K-State both play home games on Saturday as well. K-State, who won last night, they've got a home game. Baylor's got a home game. If they win and you lose, you're going to end up in 4th place. You're going to end up the 4th seed at the Big 12 tournament because those 3 teams, Kansas is now the outright champion of the Big 12. They win it, the co-champs, last night to 4th in the Big 12 conference because if you lose on Saturday, you're 11-7. Baylor and K-State have a chance to get to 12-6. So these are all things that are critical times for Texas, who not playing their best basketball. And you got to figure out, what's happening in the first half of games, what's happening offensively. What's your identity? Where's
Once
Marcus
again, you
Carr?
have to come back, and it tires you out a little bit to have to make these comebacks.
They did it. You give them credit for adjustments, but man, it's a struggle for them offensively right now when you're not getting much out of Marcus Carr. Tyrese Hunter played a nice game last night. I thought he and Jabari Rice were the keys to any opportunity you had to win that basketball game. Those 2 guys combined for 31 points and really no turnovers for either 2, and they were making plays. But Marcus Carr, 4 for 6. Allen, they combined for 16 points on 21 shots. I mean, they're not, and this is what I'm talking about in critical moments. This was a 2-point game. Late in the ball, or a 3-point game, and you could look. You just kind of see the Longhorns. Who are we going to? What's our play? What are we doing? Meanwhile, the other end, TCU just goes to the basket.
Because they know they're going to get the rebound.
Well, I mean, and after making 4 of their first 5 3-pointers, TCU, they only made 1 more the rest of the night, which tells you what they are as a 3-point shooting team. It's kind of an anomaly that they made those first 4. They only made 5 the whole game. But they stop shooting them. They just go to the basket. They just go attack the rim, and Texas does not do that. Texas, once again, only shot 19 free throws on the game. A lot of those were Dylan Disu.
This is the time you're supposed to be playing your best ball right now going into this part, and they're struggling to find their offense.
Yeah, they're an identity. I don't know what they are. I don't know what their offensive they had some critical possessions where a big bucket gets you back right where you want to be, and they just kind of look lost and what they want to be offensively. The defense was tremendous, I thought, in the second half. I thought they really ratcheted up the intensity after giving up 44 first-half points. They just gave up 31 in the second half.
That's just hard to talk about that when they keep losing 3 out of 5, and it's the same story.
Yeah.
Defense is really playing hard in the second, but they just don't get out of the locker room in the beginning of the game.
Yeah, not bringing that intensity from the jump and have to dig out of a hole. And that just seemed like last night was playing uphill the whole game.
And you're right. That's about your seniors. That's when your seniors are you're supposed to, from the tip, be ready to go. They got the tip and went in and got a slam dunk. I mean, they get.
Well, I mean, they allowed. I mean, we know that in the second half against Baylor in Waco, they allowed Baylor to shoot 60% from the floor. Last night in the first half, TCU shot 62% from the floor. 62. Making 6 of 10 shots, which means you're not playing defense. Second half, TCU only shot 29% from the floor because you actually brought some defensive intensity to the table. But again, you're playing uphill the whole game, and then when you need critical buckets in big moments, just not there. And this is where
it's not championship basketball.
No.
That's what it's not. It's just like football. It's not championship football.
Well, I mean,
When
not
you get
only
into these key spots, you don't execute.
Not only are your two freshmen, Dylan Mitchell and Arterio Morris, not really developing to where you would want them to be peaking right now, your two best players or two leading scorers all year long are either hit a wall or I don't know what's going on with Timmy Allen and Marcus Carr. You just can't rely on them on the offensive end of the floor right now. Still a lot to play for, obviously, to wrap up potentially the 2 seed in the Big 12 Conference and some big picture seeding when you get to the Big 12 tournament. But right now, certainly not playing their best basketball. And the challenge was, could you split these 2 road games? Could you get one of them? Obviously, they played a terrible first half last night. They played a bad second half against Baylor. And here you are, you lose both of these ball games. And Kansas, the outright champs in Saturday's game. I mean, I don't want to say it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean much to Kansas.
No.
You wonder if Bill
They're
Self
the
will rest
winners.
a lot of guys. He could. I mean, Bill Self could get some, the Jalen Wilsons, the Kevin McCullers, the veterans on his team, DeJuan Harris.
Yeah, he doesn't want to lose that number 1 seed because he's even got to go into this tournament and be careful.
Yeah, you just wonder. I'll be interested to see at 3:00 on Saturday how Bill Self handles that, because this is kind of like an NFL team, Week 17, that's clinched the division or clinched the seeding. They don't have a lot to play for. They're 2 games clear of anybody. No one can catch them. So, do you get some guys some rest? Do you play some younger guys?
Do they still need 2 wins in the tournament? And maybe they don't have to win the tournament, but
I think
they need 2 wins to stay number 1 seed.
No, I don't think so. I mean maybe the number 1 overall seed.
That's what I'm talking about. The number 1 overall seed. I mean,
Alabama's wrapped up the SEC with that comeback win last night. Overtime win over Auburn. Had a benches clearing situation, which was very, I guess, typical of Alabama right now. But they're going to be a 1 seed. Kansas is going to be a 1 seed. Houston, University of Houston, who gets no challenge whatsoever in the American Athletic Conference, they're going to be a 1 seed almost certainly. But again, I don't think there's much of a chance Kansas cannot be a 1 seed at this point. They've won the Big 12 by 2 games clear. Everyone agrees this is the toughest conference, top to bottom. They've won it by 2 full games, replacing all the production, and that's the frustrating part. And I know Texas and Rodney Terry is kind of feeling his way. But, Bill Self replaced 75% of his offensive and, his total production on his team, and they won this game by 2. Texas had everybody back. Texas is, all the experience, and they could not close and could not be playing their best basketball at these critical moments, and that's going to be the frustration of the Longhorns. But regular season wraps up on Saturday. We'll take your thoughts. Allowed 44 first-half points. That's really what stands out, is you just didn't come to play in the first half, which is surprising, knowing how you played against Baylor, where it was kind of a lay-and-egg performance defensively in a lot of key places. You can't allow a team to shoot 60% in a half, Buck.
no.
You just can't.
I just don't like to come out in the beginning of games and look lethargic to me. The look of it is just awful.
That's not championship basketball.
And once again, you just waste so much energy in the second half because we keep talking about how well they play in the second, but they lose the game. You lose, The football team gets into those positions, and guess what happens in the end? You lose the game. How do you get to those spots in the game where you don't wake up early? Now, did the women end up with a championship, tie for a championship? Did Oklahoma lose, did I see last night in basketball?
On the women's side?
I think Oklahoma won last night.
They ended up winning the game?
I'll double check right now.
But yes, the Longhorns had their chances and put themselves in a position to at least claim a share of the Big 12 or even win an outright title. And obviously, life on the road is difficult. Longhorns finish under 500 in the Big 12 on the road at 4-5. They are 16-1 at home this year, and they have one more home game against the Kansas Jayhawks on Saturday. It'll be a sellout at the Moody Center, and Longhorns will have to bring it there, but they certainly didn't last night. This, as you just said, the issue, Rodney Terry versus Bill Self, no competition. Well, look, that's going to be the debate moving forward. Bill Self's the best coach in college basketball right now.
Yes.
He is the standard, with Mike Krzyzewski retired, and he is the standard by which all coaches are judged, and Bill Self is, at the top, and he showed why
This guy's
again
won
this
national
year.
championships. This is.
And Rodney Terry's in his first real. He's been a head coach before, but not in this
Not
kind of
this
pressure,
level.
this kind of coaching, this kind of competition. He was at Fresno State, and big athletic and big long athletic team. There's no doubt about that. But you're right, it was a struggle for sure. Damian Baugh had 24, Emmanuel Miller 20. You're right, Mike Miles only had 1 point in the basketball game. He's still working his way back from that knee injury, but tough start, bad finish. Longhorns are now 11-6 in the Big 12. We'll talk plenty of college hoops. Take your thoughts. Who's taking the Buck-ons and the Buck-offs? Is it just life in the Big 12, or is this a team that is peaked and on the way back down? Because that's not what you want at this time of year. They did force 22 turnovers. This is the other part. When we had the Baylor game where they forced 21 turnovers and only scored 16 points off of them. Last night they forced 22 turnovers, scored 27 points, but you said it, the key stat was the rebounding. They just got killed on the glass. There were some moments where they, defensive rebound here and there gives you an opportunity, and gave extra possessions to TCU. Wasn't a pretty performance, and credit to TCU. Jamie Dixon's squad gets the win there, and the Kansas Jayhawks are the Big 12 champs. We'll talk about it throughout the morning. Also get into this NFL scouting combine situation. The Jalen Carter story obviously dominated the headlines yesterday, but they'll hit the field in Indy today and tonight. We've got more Ojimo and Keandre Coburn, DeMarvion Overshown. Interesting prospect at the combine coming up. So we'll talk some NFL, talk plenty of Buck-ons and Buck-offs, and what's going to be a wet and rainy Thursday. Be careful out there as you get it up and out on the second day of March. Just getting warmed up here on B&E. Thursday on the Horn, Buck-Ons and Buck-Offs. Jalen Carter, maybe the top overall prospect in the April draft out of Georgia, surrendered to police in Athens, Georgia yesterday after a warrant was issued for his arrest earlier in the day. Carter was scheduled to meet with the media in Indianapolis, had to fly back to Atlanta, and was booked at about 11:33 last night on the 2 misdemeanor charges of racing and reckless driving. That story will develop for sure. He will not be participating in the on-field workouts tonight at the Indianapolis Scouting Combine. Defensive linemen and linebackers today to kick things off on the field at Indy. Obviously talking Texas basketball as well, and this is discouraging, Bucky. I mean, I know it's a 2-point loss. It's on the road. It's the Big 12, and TCU's a 20-win team now. If they win their regular season finale, they'll have 10 Big 12 wins, which is a pretty strong season for Jamie Dixon's team.
Yeah, they play at OU.
And they play at Oklahoma, who's the last place team in the conference right now. It's hard to make an argument for Oklahoma to the tournament because they're under 500 big time overall and in conference play. But, the Big 12 is going to at least – there are teams that will make a case, because we know Kansas is going to be a 1 seed, Texas, Baylor, and K-State all, in that 2-3 line area. But at the bottom of the conference, you're looking at, West Virginia and Texas Tech. I mean, Texas Tech's got to be thinking –
I know.
I mean, we've got a chance. I mean,
that's what OU's got to be thinking the same thing. If we can get a win over TCU to just beat Texas,
well, but they're 14-16 overall.
The 15 won't do it.
4-13. Texas Tech 16-14. If they can get a couple more wins, win a game or two in the tournament, certainly win their regular season finale, they get to 18 wins. That's going to be strong out of this conference. West Virginia is 17-13.
So you're thinking 2 teams that are cellar dwellers, if they get some wins in the tournament play, can possibly sneak in?
Possibly. Well, because remember, we know that the Big 12 all the teams were so good in the non-conference, and they play tough non-conference schedules. So, again, if Tech and West Virginia can finish strong and make a run in the tournament, they have an argument. They may not. It might just be 8 teams in from the Big 12.
And West Virginia's trending upward.
They are. And guess who's trending way down is Iowa State. Iowa State kicked Jacob Grill off their team yesterday. They're not playing good basketball. And the Longhorns, consider this, Buck, the TCU last night had as many offensive rebounds almost as Texas had defensive rebounds. That's a problem. They had 15 offensive boards.
That is hustle and want to right there when you're trying to play for a championship.
Well, for TCU wasn't playing for a championship. They were playing to beat
Texas.
What
I'm saying. That's what you're playing for.
Yep.
As I said, the last 5 games, that's championship play. You have to win those. You knew exactly where you were standing. You can't get out hustled on the boards.
Well, you got smashed on the glass.
Yes.
You were out rebounded 46-28. And again, they had 15 offensive boards. You only had 17 defensive rebounds. Just disheartening to say the least that your bigs, Dylan DeSue, Christian Bishop, and I guess you include Dylan Mitchell in there, the freshman. He's an athletic, 6'8" guy.
Well, that's all he's going to do. That's what his job is right now. They don't
0 rebounds.
They do nothing through him offensively.
Well, 0 defensive rebound. They don't run plays for him all year long, but his thing's hustle, grit,
rebound,
doing those little things, and he's not doing that right now. He's struggling for sure, and that's what you're not sure of. Why is Marcus Carr? Is Marcus Carr, who's played nearly 1,000 minutes this year, is that adding up? He lost the weight, he got in better shape, but is he kind of hitting a wall here at the end of the year? I don't know. His legs seem to have left him. He was 4 of 16 last night, but again, the glass, where you said it's just all want to and hustle.
Yeah,
to be out rebounded that badly. Is just, almost inexcusable. But
I worried about that more than anything on Friday. Yesterday when we were talking about it, that's what I was worried about. Are they going to get out rebound? Are they going to get out hustled in this game on the road on the bad floor?
Well, consider what I was saying. Christian Bishop and Dylan DeSue, your 2 bigs, quote unquote.
Yes.
Combined for 6 defensive rebounds. 6 total. And Dylan Mitchell had 0. Brock Cunningham had 5 offensive boards. Which was hustle and grit and get that extra shot. Brock was doing his thing, but he's undersized down there against those guys. And
sure,
but
there's some bad calls on him too.
There were. I agree with that too. Some of the officiating was a little ticky tack in a physical game, but TCU.
Yeah, you're
was the
right.
tougher
In a
team.
Physical game, there was some weird foul. I'm like, come on.
Yeah,
everybody's
Dylan
playing.
DeSue on one. There was one where Eddie Lampkin or one of the TCU big men got an offensive rebound and got an and one. But Dylan DeSue got a guy jumped completely through his back, no call, and then they call a foul. But I didn't see a lot of those calls going Texas's way, which I think Rodney Terry was pretty pissed off about. considering he got a technical.
Well, the tech was weird too because that was a weird call as well. I mean, I didn't like that was a weird spot, but tough game because again, Texas, all the things we're talking about, their two leading scorers, Timmy Allen and Marcus Carr, did very little. You didn't rebound. You did a lot you didn't play a good first half, yet it was a 2-point game. It was a 3-point game with a minute to go.
Yeah, and you got some guys on TCU that aren't at quite 100%. Eddie Lampkin still is not 100%.
Yeah.
And of course, Miles not at 100. That guy's not at 100%.
You asked earlier about the Texas women. Texas women need to win this weekend because Oklahoma won last night. So
okay, they did. They won in overtime.
Both Texas and Oklahoma are 13-4 in Big 12 play. They both have a game to play. So, and Texas beat Oklahoma twice in women's basketball. So if the Longhorns if they both win,
right,
Texas would win the tiebreaker and be the Big 12 champs. We got to win at K-State though this weekend. So there's hoops. We got football on the brain. We got buck-ons and buck-offs on the brain as well as we get this thing cranking up on a buck-off Thursday. Bring it. 337-3776 is how we do it. So the Jalen Carter story, Buck, is interesting. These are misdemeanors. I mean, the judgment things are going to be discussed for sure of him, that night. This happened on January the 15th or the night of 14th into the 15th. They had a big parade and celebrated the national championship win over TCU. And then, according to Athens police, there was a scene of high-speed, maybe racing between two vehicles, and one is believed to be Jalen Carter's Jeep that he was driving. Of course, the people in the Ford Expedition, 2 of them were killed, including his former teammate, Devin Willock. He will not be charged in anything regarding that vehicle. I mean, that vehicle.
He's getting a racing, speeding type ticket. That's it. I understand, but yeah, and that
he's going to get reckless driving. I mean, the things he can be charged with, according to the legal experts, are leaving the scene.
That's the one that just gets me. That's the one that gets me more than anything. Actually, if you're there and that car's down there and it's flipped over and you decide, I need to take. I hope everybody's all right, or I hope they aren't around to tell that I was there. I mean, that is just that's hard for me.
Well, that's illegal in itself to leave a scene like that.
Yes, it is. But
he has not been charged with that, and now look, he says he will be fully exonerated. Now, this is his statement he made yesterday. He believes once all the facts are out, he'll be fully exonerated. But at this point, he's been charged with reckless driving.
Yes,
he has not been charged with leaving the scene at this point, and there could be. I mean the charges right now he's facing racing and reckless driving, both misdemeanors.
Yeah, what you're going to be ticketed for.
Which he has been ticketed for, and he has turned himself in to those. If he wasn't involved in the car that wrecked out, that's going to be on that tragic situation. And turns out that the young lady driving was really, really intoxicated, nearly 0.2 after the fact. But the racing thing, the reckless driving will be there. But yeah, there could be additional based on further investigation. Leaving the scene, was there any obstruction? Was he not cooperative?
Yeah, the character thing is to me more than anything. If that'd be the case.
When he says he will be fully exonerated, is that him saying I didn't do anything wrong?
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least that's his statement. And obviously, when you're at the NFL scouting combine and the entire NFL media is watching, and obviously every front office person from every team is there.
In other words, I wasn't driving that car. I didn't lose control of that car. I was just.
Well, he was clearly there. He came back to the scene after the fact. The timeline will all be created. But, he'll go in the top 5 in April.
Yes. He will. Yes, he will.
It'll be a Laramie Tunsil.
He doesn't fall that far.
Well, Laramie Tunsil, well, he was still a top 10 pick.
He went 14.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oof.
And that was the gas mask on draft night, out of Ole Miss. This one. Look, Jalen Carter he's too talented. There were 5 first-round picks off the Georgia defense last year, and every scout, every GM in the NFL would tell you Jalen Carter was the best player on that defense. He's going to be, one of the first 5 teams are going to take him. I mean, it's just, I know the character issue will be raised. This judgment, late at night in Athens, Georgia, after a parade are going to be judged, but talent will win out. I mean, you can question him, and I'm sure the NFL teams will, but, bad judgment, bad mistake by a young guy, 20-year-old, 21-year-old player. I still think he's this.
Yeah, we've seen a lot worse.
Well, his future is still going to make a lot of money. I'm just, my whole thing with it is character. That's my teammate. Those are my friends.
Yeah.
How do if I'm there, there's no way that I'm bailing out. I don't care. I mean, I've been drunk a lot in my lifetime, but if my friends are in a ditch and I'm around, I'm going. I'm not bailing out. I'm not running out and say, well, I was drag racing with them. No, I'm going down there to see if I can help somebody survive that. I just got to do that. I can't leave and say, oh, I definitely can't leave and come back an hour later.
For sure.
And see them dragging bodies up. And that's bad character for me. The other stuff is you're going to deal with it. The police will deal with speeding and give them a ticket and reckless driving and all that, and maybe reckless endangerment or whatever. But like I said, I don't know if he bumped his car into them and they went over. You're drag racing. You're going to get those tickets. You're going to get whatever happened. I mean, he wasn't driving the other car, but his character to me is
why did he leave the scene if he was sober? Is the thing I'm.
Well, because
that's character.
He's a potential first pick in the draft,
or he's just because he's scared, or he's getting out of here. His judgment is I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a part of this. If somebody's hurt, I'm going to be a part of this. But that's
a selfish move.
Yeah, that's where your character has to come in. Somebody could be hurt down there. I could save somebody from dying. I may be able to save one of my teammates, or somebody that I know. He knows the people in there. I mean, how do you don't run away from that? You run to that. You know, that's your character. You're not drunk. You know, you're not impaired when they find out. I mean, right now he wasn't even drinking. It's your character more than anything. It's not whether, your first round draft pick or whatever. It's, dude, those are your friends. You can't leave your friends in a ditch.
This says he disagree. His talent won't overcome the fact that he was there when his teammates passed away. And,
but that's character, right? That's what you're saying.
Well, we'll just
his talent. He's going to get drafted, and he's going to be a highly drafted guy still.
I think he'll be a top 5 pick, but that's just.
And this other vehicle is going over 100 miles an hour.
Dismissing the judgment, dismissing character. I just kind of know how this will, or I feel like I know where this will go.
Sure.
I mean, it's 2 misdemeanors for reckless driving and racing. Tragedy, but it's still a talent league, and I think he'll still.
NFL has lots of character issues on teams that still guys get drafted.
Joe Mixon got drafted.
Yeah, I mean, things like that. But this is just you as a person talking about that guy as a person. That's not showing. That's a bad deal right there.
Troubling for sure. But the full story, he still says that he'll be exonerated when all the facts are out. That's the one thing that is for sure. He has not been candid with the police. I mean, he's told 3 different stories 3 different times about his role that night. So that will be sorted out as we move forward. But we will follow the developments and obviously what's going on at the NFL Scouting Combine, the very latest there. Also get some B&E facts of the day coming up. Kevin Durant, successful to say the least. That Phoenix team looking pretty good with he and Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul. They are a super team indeed. Easy win last night for them. We'll get you details. First, though, here's Craig Way.
It's Bucky and Aaron.
B&E with you on this Thursday morning. Buck-ons and Buck-offs go back into the Longhorn loss last night in Fort Worth. TCU crushed the Longhorns on the glass, built a double-digit lead, and then held on for the win. Longhorns had no offensive identity down the stretch and could not get the rebounds they needed. But talking about Jalen Carter on the way to the timeout, the Georgia defensive lineman, for a lot of people, the best player in this draft coming up in April, top talent available. That's not a quarterback. His statement said, "This morning I received a telephone call from the Athens, Georgia Police Department informing me there were 2 misdemeanor warrants issued against me for reckless driving and racing. Numerous media reports have also circulated this morning containing inaccurate information concerning the tragic events of January 15. It's my intention to return to Athens and answer the misdemeanor charges against me and make certain that the complete and accurate truth is presented. There is no question in my mind that when all of the facts are known, I will be fully exonerated of any criminal wrongdoing." That's the statement of Jalen Carter. So, again, police investigators, believe there were 3 cars involved, 3 cars racing in that night on January the 15th. Only one ended up in a really terrible situation. And the driver of the Ford Expedition, in which 2 people were killed, driver was pretty severely intoxicated, according to toxicology reports. There were no signs, according to police, of Jalen Carter having had any alcohol and hadn't been drinking. So the story will develop, and that's where it stands right now. But he believes the truth will come out, so we'll let the facts speak. He's been currently charged with 2 misdemeanor. Because this text says, "Hey, Ty, how the blank are you going to compare this to Joe Mixon, 2 people where he didn't contribute to 2 people dying?" Well, look, I mean, young people do reckless things and dumb things, but the 2 people who died, it's a tragedy without a doubt, but they have to that's on their responsibility. They were driving intoxicated in a car. They were speeding. All
the
3
young
of
lady
them
was drunk, yes.
Is this texter trying to say what he did is worse than what Joe Mixon
Yeah,
did?
I'm not saying reckless driving is a good thing, but I'm not going to put Jalen Carter in the boat that he...
the realization is that's not just a bad, if all this stuff comes that he was actually there when that car crashed, that's not just a bad teammate, that's a bad person. That's just bad judgments. You don't do that to people. You don't leave a neighbor in a ditch and roll out of there because you're nervous that because you were speeding along with them.
You don't leave a random person.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's just a bad. That's not good
it's
character.
against the law too.
Well, he has not been charged with.
That's the part he hasn't been charged.
What
with.
is that called?
You can't leave the scene of an accident.
Yeah, I forgot what that particular charge is called though.
It's called leaving the scene.
It's leaving the scene of an accident. You can't leave the scene.
If you're a witness to an accident, you're as a good citizen, you're supposed to stay and help, and not just
I don't care about him
save a life,
whether it's a teammate or not. That's just poor judgment and bad character
for sure
on anybody left in a ditch. I don't care if it's a mom and her kid. You don't know who they are. You don't know if they're from out of town. Just people. It's a person. There are people in a car. You don't say, "I got to get out of here. I may be involved in this. I may get caught for doing this." I mean, it's not worried about your draft choice. It's about where you as a person. Why would you do that? What would make you decide to do that? And I know people do it, but that's not good character. That's terrible. Whether you're an athlete or not, that's not good. You don't leave somebody in a ditch. Dude, she's going over 100 miles an hour. No, and you're right.
104 miles.
You're right.
An hour.
He's not driving the car. That's not on him. He's not driving the car.
Right.
But his character to leave that, then come back an hour later, and like you said, well, we'll see what happens down the road. I'm just thinking, oh, there it is. Failure to render aid. Fleeing the
police
scene.
investigator said the Ford driven by LaCroix, and remember this goes to Georgia too, because this was a school vehicle. It was a recruiting coordinator. Police investigators said the car was going 104 miles an hour. It failed to negotiate a curb. The front passenger tire left the roadway, hit the shoulder, struck a power pole, hit another utility pole, and then sliced in half before striking a tree on the rear passenger quarter panel, sent the vehicle spinning, and obviously the 2 in the front seat were killed. Now, the initial reports say that he was there, Jalen Carter, along with another teammate who was driving a Dodge Challenger, and then before authorities got there and the emergency personnel, that's when he left. He was there for a little bit and then left when
He did not render aid. He didn't go down there to help anybody. Well, that's what he's going to say.
We don't know. You don't know that.
I don't know that.
He may have,
shouldn't say that.
and then left before, because you call 911 and Then he left, and he came back inside 2 hours later while they were still investigating and was cooperative with the situation. So, again, we'll follow the story as the facts develop. That's what we know now. He's been charged with 2 misdemeanors in the situation. So that story evolves. We'll get into the other top stories. Texas hoops, college basketball. Kevin Durant as a Phoenix Suns scored 23 last night, looking pretty efficient. 23 points on 15 shots, was 10 for 15 from the floor. Devin Booker had 37, so the Suns off and running. Somebody said, hey, that's not a super team. They only have 1 All-Star. Really? Devin Booker's an All-Star. Kevin Durant's a Hall of Famer. Chris Paul's a Hall of Famer. I mean, DeAndre Ayton is a fringe All-Star. I don't know what do you mean the Phoenix Suns only have 1 All-Star? I mean, maybe this year. But Devin Booker's not an All-Star in your mind, Buck?
Oh, yeah, he's
one of the best
damn,
young players in the league.
Pretty
Best scorers
good.
in the league. Chris Paul's going to the Hall of Fame. And
I didn't see any of the game. Did Kevin Durant look okay, like he was healthy and ready to go?
Oh, yeah.
Or is that going to be tough in that division?
Well, he and Devin Booker have similar offensive games. They like to shoot from similar spots. They're a problem to stop defensively, obviously. And then you got DeAndre Ayton down there, 16 points, 16 rebounds. Just doing the
You got Limpy Paul.
Well, it's still Chris Paul. And pretty impressive, but obviously Kevin Durant joining another group of all-stars on his way to maybe an NBA championship. We'll preview that coming up. Also, golf, PGA Tour, making some pretty bold moves, it appears, for their schedule for 2024. We'll dive into that. Is that a buck on or buck off? All the top stories. It's B&E on the Horn. B&E with you on a Buck Off Thursday, starting your weekend. That's right, because you know most of you are 4-day work week kind of people. You know what I'm saying? You'll knock off early tomorrow. You'll head out to the Rodeo Barbecue Cook-Off, and you'll be cranking into the weekend.
Yes.
Hey, be careful out there. It's kind of a weird weather morning. You mentioned the severe weather you drove in, and
Yes.
there's a line of pretty major storms that have moved, kind of across the Western Hill Country up above. Like if you live in downtown Austin or Central or South, you don't even know that it's raining. But if you're up in Round Rock, Georgetown, and Killeen beyond, it is a downpour this morning. So
yeah, that was a different ride for me coming through, getting on Fitzhugh. I mean, I generally know that the ins and outs and the turns and everything else, but the way the rain was coming down, me trying to get that windshield wiper to go as fast as it could, I just couldn't get it to go fast enough. That's how at 4 o'clock this morning it was coming down hard, and I know that road, and I've been on that road when it's been iced over. But this morning, that I felt in danger. I was like, am I going to pull over in a spot and wait this out a little bit, or am I just going to keep on going?
Well, it's interesting because we drove in at similar times, and I didn't get anything. I mean, I got a little mist because, but if you look at the way the storm is moving, came through dripping, and it's going to the northeast, and it's
doesn't help that there's still trees and stuff hanging out on half the road. People's on the other side of their fences.
That's
It's
right.
just
and
it's
it came
just,
through
we got
early
to
this
get rid of
morning,
that
but
stuff.
now it's moving off to the northeast, and it's above Central Austin. But if you're up Williamson County way, you're dealing with it this morning. So be careful. And there's another line of storms coming this evening. So severe weather in the forecast. And
I'll say this about what we're talking about with Jalen Carter. There are people that drink, that can drink, that don't. I mean, it's the level of what you drink to. Everybody that drinks is not a drunk. I got some experience with that. Everybody that drinks is not a drunk. People drink and can have a couple drinks, and they're going to register. You know what I'm saying? So when people think that, well, if you're drinking, you're going to be drunk. No, people drink all the time that aren't drunks. Everybody that drinks is not a drunk.
According to authorities in Athens, there were no signs that Jalen Carter was drinking. So at all. Now, is he part of the drag race that was going on?
Well, yeah. You can be a part of that because you can have some poor judgment at times. But everybody that drinks, I think people get confused that, oh, you're out drinking. No, people go out drinking all the time that aren't drunks, that don't get drunk.
Right.
And there are still young people that don't even drink.
For sure.
They don't drink at all. I mean, that's it's hard to believe, but it's a part of life. There are people that have never had a drink.
Yeah, I haven't seen any allegation that he was intoxicated. Obviously, the driver of the other vehicle was pretty heavily intoxicated in that moment, and terrible tragedy without a doubt.
Doesn't mean you don't render aid to your friends.
Well, again, I don't know that he didn't. I mean, because again, he was there until the authorities were coming and he left. To protect, bad judgment. But did he help in the immediate at all? I mean, those are all things when I'll wait. I mean, his statement pretty clear. He thinks he'll be exonerated. But again, that's his statement to protect his future. Let's let the facts come out. He's been charged with 2 misdemeanors in that case, but no sign that he had been drinking in that moment or in the night at all that night. They certainly had. And the lady driving the Expedition. It is also Texas Independence Day, so happy birthday to the great state. This was the day in 1836 that the Texas Declaration of Independence was signed, March the 2nd,
Still not independent, no?
Well, Texas Independence Day, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Learn it, know it, live it.
It says rain, small hail in Georgetown this morning, guys. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're,
so I was thinking was going to happen.
Well, that's what it's just looking at the radar. If you're in Central Austin, you don't know that there's not severe weather. But if you're north, there is. And you drove into it this morning coming out of Dripping Springs. All right, let's get to the headlines, trending topics to start your Thursday morning. UBEO Business Services brings it to you. Start with the Texas Longhorn basketball team. Longhorns needed to split these 2 road games, Baylor and TCU, to give themselves a shot to win the Big 12 regular season championship, at least a share of it. Well, they went 0-2. Last night, the hopes of a share of that conference title went out the window. They lost at Fort Worth as TCU held off another second-half Horns rally and spoiled their title dream 75-73. Frustrating trend continued for Texas once again against a ranked opponent. Played a very poor first half, found themselves down double digits at the intermission, 44-32. As usual, they made some adjustment, clamped down on defense in the second half, rallied, cut the TCU lead to 3 with 1:07 to go, but TCU guard Damian Baugh capped a 24-point night with a pair of free throws after they got an offensive board. And the Frogs closed out with a breakaway dunk from Emmanuel Miller. He had 20 last night. Again, they got that against the Texas pressure. Horns fall to 22-8, 11-6 in Big 12 play. 2 full games behind the Kansas Jayhawks for Rodney Terry, who still believes his team has a lot to play for.
This time of year in March, I mean, you're playing for seeding, you're playing to put yourself in the best position for the big prize. And I do, still feel like we have a team that can win the big prize. So we got to still continue to fight and want to come out and compete at a high level.
Jabari Rice led the Horns with 16 off the bench. Tyrese Hunter added 15 in the loss. Texas will wrap up the regular season against the Big 12 champions, the Kansas Jayhawks, this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Elsewhere, Kansas State whipped Oklahoma last night, 85-69, so they pulled into a three-way tie with Texas and Baylor in the Big 12. All three teams are 11-6. Second-ranked Alabama clinched the outright SEC regular season title. They rallied from 17 down to beat Auburn, their rivals, in overtime, 90-85. NBA, as we mentioned, Phoenix, successful debut for Kevin Durant last night. They won in Charlotte, 104-91. Durant had 23, Devin Booker 37. Bucks have won 16 in a row. Milwaukee easy win over Orlando last night. Jason Tatum scored 41 to lead Boston past Cleveland. And, of course, Houston Rockets. Well, they lost again. They always lose. They lost 11 in a row. They lost to Memphis this time. Rockets and Spurs have combined to lose 26 games in a row now at the bottom of the NBA standings. NFL on-field drills and workouts begin this afternoon and this evening at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. 3 former Longhorns will be a part of it. It's defensive linemen and linebackers first up today. Keandre Coburn, More Ojimo, DeMarvion Overshown will take part on the first day of the on-field work. And as we mentioned, major development yesterday with the news that former Georgia star Jalen Carter, maybe the top prospect at the top of the board for next month's draft, has been charged with reckless driving and racing in connection with the crash that killed a teammate and a recruiting staff member back in January. Both charges are misdemeanors.
Big buck on to Eddie Reese and the swimming team once again to coach for another championship. The guy just continues to win and win and win. You can retire and come back and do whatever.
Remember Eddie retired.
I know.
And then came back.
They talked him back into it.
And I wonder, Chris Del Conte has joked about that, the athletic director, but they're going to the SEC. And one of the things in the Big 12 being a swimming program, there are multiple teams and programs that don't have a swimming team. So
there'll be some in the Florida.
SEC is for real.
Yes.
SEC swimming is, that's the best conference for swimming outside of, what Texas does. So it'll be fun to see the Longhorns, we know in football and basketball, baseball, but swimming and diving, SEC will be a heck of a lot of fun. If they can keep that conference championship race run going when they move over there, well, watch out. And I wonder if that's part of why Eddie said, you know what, I need to come back to the pool. You need to come back.
Hell yeah. If we're going to the SEC, I want to be where they have the best of the best, besides us.
Yeah. All right, so we'll follow the Jalen Carter story. It will be interesting to see these players hit the field. I'm really interested in DeMarvion Overshown today because DeMarvion is such an interesting player. He played 2A high school in ARP, right, coming out of high school. He was just so far and away better than everybody. Big safety, but he was really just the best player on a 2A field. He came to Texas as part of that great, defensive back class that included Caden Stearns, and he, was he going to stay a safety or was he going to add muscle and move into a linebacker, which, kind of made it confusing for his career here at Texas. What was he? But he turned out to be a pretty darn good player his last 2 years as he learned to play linebacker, and the timing might be just right for him because that's the direction of the National Football League, where they're moving more and more, Dan Quinn with the Cowboys, big on the positionless football concept where I need you to do a lot of different things, young man.
I need my best athletes on the field.
Yeah.
I'll find a position for him.
I need you to cover tight ends. I need you to be physical at the point and play in the box. And I may need you to rush the passer. I may need you, which he showed he could do this year as a pass rusher at times when they needed him in that star role for Texas. So, if he measures well, runs well today, he's going to be a guy because he's going to, have long arms, be a lanky player, look like a physical player.
Gee, you look at that guy, you look at an NFL player, he looks just like him.
Yeah, and that's interesting.
You'll get
to
the
me.
best of the best when it comes to coaching those positions too. That they're probably looking at him at.
I also think Moro Ojimo's an interesting player because you saw Moro play at Katy.
He was a baby then.
Yeah, Katy High School.
17 years old.
Yeah, when he was helping Katy win a state title, right when they played Westlake or Lake Travis, when you called the games, or we're calling that game, he was like 16 years old, and he was new to football. Remember, he came to football late, and so his best year was this year. He's an interesting prospect.
Yeah, and I don't think he's had his best year. I don't think he's had his full of growth and learning what the game is, the nuances of playing defense.
Yeah. And then there's Keandre Coburn today, who will go through his workouts. Snacks, who had his best year this year, really came on.
Our NFL loves big butts, big bodies.
Yeah. So we'll follow those guys, the big boys and linebackers running today in Indianapolis. Of course, we know that quarterbacks and receivers and tight ends are Saturday, and then running backs are Sunday with Bijan and Roschon. So the NFL Combine dominated yesterday by the Jalen Carter story. Also, the GMs and that ilk, the league personnel are talking. We had the Baltimore Ravens general manager saying he covets Lamar Jackson and thought of trading him. I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen with that Lamar Jackson story. And sounding more and more like there'll be a divorce from the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. Just does.
I think Lamar will eventually give in. There'll be enough money on the table for a guy who's his own agent. He's going to look and say, that's a lot of money. I don't have to pay an agent. By the way, I don't have to give an agent anything.
Only thing I'll say to that is I think Lamar Jackson's – I think there's some bad blood right now between he and the organization. I don't think he's real happy with them.
Somebody blow some kisses at him then.
Yeah, so I wonder if he'd like to find a and any quarterback who's put up the numbers he has and now still hasn't
MVP. I know
they still haven't invested the long-term deal. There's going to be some acrimony there. There's just going to be some, come on, y'all. I mean, and now the Ravens side of it is he's demanding this guaranteed contract, which we're not going to do, and he won't even come off of that to begin negotiating. So, but I do think there's some other stuff. There's some personal things in there with Lamar Jackson and that team that they're going to have to iron out as well for him to be back there. Let's dive into your Coach's Corner. It's brought to you by Audio Visual Consultations. That's online at avconsultations.com. All right, so a lot of issues for the Longhorn basketball team last night. Again, a 2-point loss. Now, Jabari Rice hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer that was the backdoor cover for TY in there, but it was a 5-point game. And in the end, the Longhorns, frustrating trends continue. Bad first halves, not playing with defensive intensity in the first half. They allowed TCU to shoot 62% in the first half and score 44 points, which is not championship-level basketball. Then they do their typical halftime adjustment thing, come out in the second half, get back in the game, tighten it up, and then their offensive
spend a lot of energy to do it.
But still, I mean, they had plenty. I just don't know what their offensive game plan is late in games.
I don't know how they get off the bus to go to the game. How do you have a tip-off and you're not ready to go? I mean, I know you're not at home, but, I mean, they've been doing this for the last 3 out of 5 games. It's just, hey, I mean, the Oklahoma game was different. But since then, it's still
I didn't think they played great defense in that game. I thought the best game they've played in the last 5 was Iowa State, where they handled their business. But, yeah, the Oklahoma game was an overtime game against the last-place team that probably didn't need to be an overtime game. But again, in this one and in the Baylor game, you can't allow a team, and if you're going to try to play for a championship, to shoot over 60% in a half, whatever half it is.
That's right. You said it right there. No matter what half it is, you can't let them do that.
But then last night, this is where it does feel like Marcus Carr has lost his legs. I mean, Marcus Carr, who was your leading scorer all year long, in these critical moments, these critical games down the stretch, he just hasn't had a shooting touch. He was 4 of 16 last night.
You need numbers when Timmy Allen's going to give you 6.
4 of 6. And you kind of figured Timmy would struggle last night against the length of TCU because he typically does struggle against athletic, long teams, which TCU is. Timmy played 28 minutes and scored 6 points. But, Marcus Carr, you played the great backcourt of Baylor. You played Mike Miles and this crew last night, and They need their leading scorer to be really good in these moments, and it just feels like Marcus Carr doesn't have a lot of lift on his jump shot. He's, again, 2 of 9 from 3, 4 of 16 from the floor, and that's, what's been their offensive identity this year has been Marcus Carr. When they need a big bucket, it's he either shooting or facilitating for a guy like Jabari Rice to knock down a big shot in the corner, and you're not getting much out of Marcus right now. Tyrese Hunter actually played a good game last night. I thought he was outstanding with 15 points and, 5 for 10 from the line, didn't turn the ball over. He and Jabari Rice kept you in the basketball game. Brock Cunningham with 5 rebounds on the offensive glass. But we mentioned when you get out rebounded as badly as they did in this game, to be in it late is pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So there's a grit to them, there's a resiliency to them, there's a toughness to them. But in the end of the day, I don't know what their offensive identity is, and I'm with you. I don't know what these bad starts are all about in these basketball games.
That's when you should be at your most excited. I mean, you should have the high energy, right? Especially on the road. You're playing for this is championship time. You get them, then you have an opportunity to split a championship with the University of Kansas, the best coach in basketball right now. You got an opportunity to split a championship with him. You go to TCU. I mean, yeah, that's a gritty group. We talked about how gritty they were going to be. You didn't meet their grade in the first half of the basketball game. How do you not do that?
Came too easy. And as we said, TCU not a good shooting team, and amazing. Just it's kind of like how Murphy's law.
And that's exactly how they thought against Texas Tech. Hey, they're not going to hit these threes. Let's let them. Let's not be in their
if the
face.
stat sheet tells you Micah Peavy shoots 23% from three, I'm going to let him shoot it. I'll let him shoot it. Well, he made 2 for 2, and they made 4 of their first 5. And they didn't make but 1 the rest of the game. But those early three-pointers helped them build the double-digit lead that they took to the half. And that's, you can say that's frustrating that a team that doesn't shoot well.
Look at your board, how you played in these first halves. That's all you need to do to know you need to be in everybody's face.
Well, look, I mean, as
play
a coach,
championship ball, right?
If you got a 20% three-point shooter who wants to shoot, I'm going to let him. I mean, that's numbers would tell you let that guy shoot. That's a low percentage shot. He made both. I mean, you even heard the commentators going, "Oh, Micah Peavy, where'd this come from? Who's this guy hitting threes?" I mean, he doesn't do that, and he did, and he hit both of the ones he took.
Leave no stone unturned.
Then he stopped taking them. But again, you know, guys that in basketball, you just let them shoot it.
Well, yeah, I saw them do that against Texas Tech. I saw them do that when they didn't run out and said, "Oh, he's not going to make this shot."
But I'm just saying that's not a bad basketball play. If you've got a guy that can go around you, so you lay off him a little bit and let him take a three-pointer.
I'm trying to win a championship. I'm not letting anybody take anything. But the one thing I'm not letting them do is out-rebound me like that.
Right. Well, that's the bigger concern. You got out-rebounded 48 to 20-something. It was pretty brutal. And as we said, they had as many offensive rebounds as you had defensive rebounds in the basketball game last night. Second chance points were big with 15 offensive rebounds for TCU. So, yeah, not a great performance for the Longhorns in a big spot. And that leads to the game with Kansas on Saturday.
What do you think that looks like now? Except for, you're still playing for seeding. You can't afford to.
I don't know what it is.
To lose 4 or 6.
I don't know. I just don't know how Bill Self approaches it. I mean, there's a case to be made that Bill Self would probably be the coach of the year in the Big 12 this year when all the votes
Rest
are
your
in.
Dudes.
Either he or Jerome Tang will be coach of the year. But you're 2 games clear. You got 2 games in hand here in the Big 12.
You've got a
you're
tournament to play.
You're going to be the number 1 seed in the tournament. Do you? I don't say take the weekend off, but you could let some young guys get some playing time, and you could let Jalen Wilson get off his feet a little bit. These guys you're going to need come March because obviously Kansas is playing for bigger things.
Hell, just play them in the first half. You should be all right. You should be leading the game.
Yeah, I'll be intrigued to see how Bill Self approaches this because the Longhorns need to win. Longhorns are in a spot that they're now even with Baylor and K-State at 11-6, and if they lose this game, Baylor and K-State also have home games on Saturday. If they win theirs, Texas can end up all the way down in 4th place. In this Big 12 conference, going into the Big 12 tournament as a 4 seed in the tournament when they were right. knocking on the door of maybe being a 1 or 2 seed.
And just playing sloppy and being on a downer going into this is not good. You should be playing your peak at your best now.
And
once again, guys, they're just not going to get. They don't have big guys. It's not going to happen. They're not going to just start growing now.
And look, maybe this goes to the coach, and I don't know how it would be different with Chris Beard or whatever, as people are asking on the text line. But we just know what a Chris Beard team the mindset would be over the course of a long season. This one does. I don't know what their identity is. They're hit and miss on defense. Their offense is. I don't know what their attack mode is when they need a big bucket. The freshmen, the Dylan Mitchell, Arterio Morris, those guys you were hoping would come along and evolve.
By this time.
They're not. I mean, Dylan Mitchell's not giving you much at all right now, which, he's your most athletic player with size. And
I'll just say this once again, Bill Self has his guys at this time of the year. They're playing.
Peaking.
Yes.
Well, that's really,
even the players that they've been just okay during the course of the
Well, to me, that's what separates
season.
Good coaches from great coaches,
Yes.
right? I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, Vic Schaefer. Go look at Vic Schaefer's March record. Coaching women's basketball, his record in March is ridiculous. He doesn't care what his record is in November and January and early. What are you doing in March? And that's what it needs to be. Now, can the Longhorns turn this thing? We're March 2nd, but the last couple games and even the wins at home over Oklahoma and Iowa State, there was some concern. And now these 2 games not there. What does Saturday look like against the best team in the conference? We'll see. Got to win that game. I mean, it would be really disappointing based on where they were with 2 weeks to play. If they slide all the way down to the 4 seed.
And I agree with you. The mindset of Kansas, is going to be, we can't get anybody. We're ready. We'll go play in the tournament. How many games we win in the tournament? Yeah, that'll be nice if we can win the regular season and the tournament play. But I don't think Bill Self is really going to give a rat's ass about the tournament.
Yeah, or will he give a rat's ass about Saturday?
Or that's.
I mean, you could go both ways with that, and we'll see. But again. you got to anticipate if you're Rodney Terry that Big 12 teams and coaches are going to make adjustments to you. You know, they're not jumping at the Jabari Rice pump fake anymore as much as they were. They've really started to clamp down on Jabari Rice and make things more difficult on him, realizing what a weapon he is.
That's right.
And, you know, what have you adjusted to? But at the same time, for Rodney Terry, he's not out there shooting the basketball. You know, Marcus Carr's been making these shots all year. Now he's not. He's in a shooting slump at the worst possible time. And, again, you're getting very little from your big
guys. And have
guys.
your freshmen gotten better?
No.
I mean, these superstar freshmen.
They become less and less a part of, you know, what you're doing. Especially, you know, because Dillon Mitchell's been a starter all year long. I mean, this is a guy you were hoping you're not running plays for him, you're not running offense through him, but defense, rebounding, you know, blocking shots, doing all that stuff down low. He's not doing much on the stat page right now for the Longhorns.
Who's the kid who was here? Brown, the
Greg Brown.
Greg Brown. Did he get better as the year went on? I'm just trying to remember. Remember he was a superstar kind of guy. NBA, I'm out of here after 1 year. Did he get better as the year went on? A little bit better? Or is he just is it the same?
He was better than Dillon Mitchell.
Well, Dillon, there were times this year where Dillon was playing really good basketball. I mean, really good, really contributing, loading up the stat page with rebounds and just doing the little things that help you win basketball games. And it feels like that's gone away. And when you look at the box score these days with Dillon Mitchell, it's, you know, 10 minutes, took 2 shots, had 2 points.
Do we set him up for anything offensively? He's not a part of our offensive setup.
He had 2 rebounds. It's just
that's where he
hasn't been a part of their offensive setup all year. I mean, he's there.
It's all his athleticism, right now.
They want him to do those little things. It's a guard-driven team. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, as we just said, Marcus Carr is not delivering like he was earlier in the year. We'll be back. We'll pick up these conversations. Your thought on the Texas Longhorns. Be careful out on the highways and byways. Big storm moving through to the north of us up in Williamson County. Fog and wet streets throughout the rest of the listening area as you get it rolling on this Texas Independence Day. Happy birthday to the great state. It's B&E on the Horn.
Take me to Texas 200 years ago,
It's Bucky and Aaron.
where a pride rose from the ashes.
There's the King on Texas Independence Day, March the 2nd. Nasty outside. Be careful. Just heard Don Miller say it's an hour and a half from Kyle to downtown Austin.
Man.
Might want to turn around and go back and work from home today. 80-some minutes.
Scary out there.
It is. Be careful. Slow it up down. Oh, you're not going to go very fast. Doesn't feel like it
No.
if you're out on 35. But we're going fast. We're talking Texas hoops on the Jalen Carter story. Also, other stories from the NFL Combine. For the top of the hour, Ty will lead us through some hot or not topics. Also, 1 hour from now, our conversation weekly with David Pierce, head baseball coach at Texas Longhorns, off to that 3-4 start, or 3-5 start to the year. We'll talk about that LSU game and what they can learn from the first 8 games of the year on their way to Cal State Fullerton this weekend. Also, after the headlines stop at next hour, our friend Mike Craven will join us from Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Talk some Longhorn spring football. Yesterday, it was announced, Buck, by the folks at Dave Campbell's Texas Football that they're launching a podcast network, and I'm going to be a part of it.
Very nice.
I'm going to be doing a podcast weekly with Mike Craven called The Eyes on Texas. We're going to be focused on Texas football. Mike is, as you know, you were at Texas coaching when his grandfather,
That's right.
Dr. Craven.
Doc Craven.
Doc Craven, his granddad, was, and Mike will tell you, we'll talk to him coming up. He was with the
I like to make
Statesman.
myself young so I don't say his dad. No,
His grandpa.
his grandpa.
He used to go to work with him all the time. So you used to see little Mike
Oh,
around
yeah.
the locker room all the time. And Mike would tell you that his babysitter growing up was the Texas football program because
You stay there and just don't get anybody's way.
Yeah. So
we know
he-
who you are. Don't get
He
in
immersed himself in Texas football in the
Absolutely.
90s, and now he's doing great work at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Very insightful. So I'm excited about this podcast we're going to do. We'll tell you more about it and talk to Mike about what his big questions are for the Longhorns headed into spring workouts, which begin on Monday. Also, you know, he covered all these 5 guys that are at the Combine for the Longhorns. He covered them in recruiting. So he remembers all these guys when they're coming out of high school.
for sure.
And now here they are off to the National Football League. And speaking of the Combine, did you hear what Will Anderson Jr., Will Anderson, who is the, Jalen Carter and he are the top 2 defensive and probably overall prospects in this draft. Will Anderson, of course, in Alabama, played Texas week 2 last year. He was asked yesterday when they did the player interviews who was the toughest player he faced while in college. Here's Will Anderson, the high-end pass rusher out of Alabama.
Back from Texas, he was a big back. We had to game tackle him all. We had to get all hats to the ball. He was going to break a few tackles. We had to tackle him the right way, but he was probably the most toughest person I played in college.
Yeah, Bijan Robinson.
Bijan Robinson.
There you go. There you go. He said toughest player he faced, and he's in the SEC. That's pretty high praise for Bijan
Absolutely.
and what he can be. And I'd say this for Will Anderson at the top of the draft. You realize in 3 years at Alabama, Will Anderson was credited with 207 total pressures across 3 years. 207. Aiden Hutchinson had 128 in 4 years at Michigan. 4 years. Chase Young had 150 in 3 years at Ohio State. Myles Garrett had 164 in 3 years at Texas A&M. Will Anderson way above that. This guy's a special pass rusher. That's why you could see him off the board. You know, if the Bears don't trade down, they could take him number 1 overall because pass rush is a premium position in the National Football League. And by the way, that Aiden Hutchinson, Chase Young, those dudes, Myles Garrett, they're pretty good in the
they
National
are.
Football League, and he's better than at least his pressure rate
I
better
think
than all
Will
of
can
them.
play inside too.
He's a great player. He didn't have his best year
No,
this
he did
year.
not. No, he did not.
A lot of offsides penalties, but when they needed him most, he was big. And he and Bryce Young were the 2 captains of that team. Also, speaking of pass rushers, Buck, we talk about Bijan Robinson a lot and where he's going to go. I don't think there's any question who will be the first player from the state of Texas drafted, and that's going to be Tyree Wilson, the pass rusher, the defensive end from Texas Tech, the Texas A&M transfer who transferred in. He won't work out here because he had a foot injury at the end of last year that he says he may bench press because he can do that, but he's not. He's trying to get ready for his pro day at the end of March over there at Texas Tech.
He is big and quick.
He is a big 6'6", long.
Man.
He's the kind of, he's built like an NFL player without a doubt. So you could see him off the board in the top 6 picks. I mean, you could see him going to Seattle at 5. You could see Detroit grabbing him at 6. He's a big-time player. So, Bijan will go at some point, but we know those edge players.
Can you imagine the edge players that Detroit would have with those 2 guys?
Aiden Hutchinson and him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Young guys, they'll be there a long time.
Well, and their problem last year was defense. Now, maybe more in the secondary, but, man, what helps the secondary more than hitting
That
the
kind of
quarterback?
rush?
Yeah, for sure. So that'll be interesting. And again, the defensive linemen and the linebackers will get after it today on the field, actual on-field work. They'll do their whole thing today. Those are two guys to watch for sure. But, yeah, Will Anderson Jr. saying the toughest player he faced, 3 years at Alabama, was Bijan Robinson. That is – remember Will Anderson when they left here, remember when Texas they squeaked out of here with a 20-19 win. Will Anderson also said this was the loudest environment he'd ever played in. So I think Will's got a little affinity for the Longhorns, it feels like.
It was also the worst game he probably had last year, too.
Oh, he had all those offsides penalties.
He kept jumping. And I mean, he just didn't have a good year last year.
He didn't have a bad year.
Well, I mean, for him, he didn't have a good year.
Well, because the year before he had like 18 sacks and he was a one-man gang. It's amazing that, last year we talked about Jalen Carter and now what he's dealing with off the field. That Georgia team had 15 players drafted last year, 5 of them in the first round, or 5 of them off their defense. And to a general manager, they would tell you that the best player on the defense 2 years ago was Jalen Carter.
Oh, yeah.
Which, if he had been coming out last year, he would have been higher than those guys. And that's kind of the same thing with Will Anderson. These are 2 really, really special players on the defensive side. But obviously now Jalen Carter is dealing with his charges that he says he will be exonerated from, but we'll follow that story. But the combine gets cranking today. Before we get to the hot or not with Ty Buck, and then we're going to talk to Mike Craven, and then we're going to talk to David Pierce next. I wanted to ask you about these PGA Tour moves that are coming. Now, this year the PGA Tour will move forward as normal, right? We got the Dell Match Play at the end of the year. We got the Arnold Palmer Invitational team off today in Orlando. Got the Masters in April. But next year, there's a report that in 2024, the schedule will consist of fields, 8 different events that are going to be called elevated events.
Where no cuts?
No, yeah, there's going to be 8 events on the calendar. This won't be the majors, by the way. This will be, so you got the 4 majors. You also have the Players' Championship, which is kind of the 5th major. But then in 8 other designated events throughout the calendar, they're going to have fields, they're going to cut the field in half. It'll be 70 to 78 players, and there will be no cut. 36 holes.
So guys will get paid.
Yeah, everybody gets paid. And obviously this is going to be the top players. They're going to cut out the riffraff, as we like to say. This is something the Live Tour has kind of pushed that, people don't turn on TV sets to watch. Who were the dudes last week? Chris Kirk and some other guy. I mean, you want to see the best
Laura
players.
Baugh's son.
Yeah. Like this year, so we'll see. I mean, the schedule has not been announced. But the smaller designated event fields will not only deliver substantial, according to Jay Monahan, can't-miss tournaments to our fans and important intervals throughout the season, but they will also enhance the quality of full field events. Together, this approach provides a schedule that is cohesive, compelling, consequential, with clarity. And look, how do you combat guaranteed money from Live, who no one's paying attention to right now, but they're handing out big paychecks? You have a no-cut field 8 times. So the top players are going to get paid. Because
that's right.
When if you go to a full field tournament and you don't make the cut, you paid for your expenses of getting there and hotels and everything that goes on, and you don't make any money, which has been a gripe of players. Well, in these cases, the top players
want you to play in those big events
at least 8 times a year.
Sure.
You're gonna whatever you play, you go 78th, but you're still getting a check.
Yeah, buck on, by the way, to Laura Baugh's son, who came in 2nd place in that tournament last week. That guy has gone through life with Addison's disease. My dog has Addison's disease and has to get a certain shot once a month and takes a pill every day. So that kid that you saw playing in that tournament was 150 pounds, at one time. 150 he weighed. He's little anyway.
Who's his son? Son of who?
Laura Baugh, the great LPGA player.
Oh.
That was her son that lost that tournament last week.
I didn't realize that.
And he had this disease called Addison's disease. I forget. My dog has to take a pill a day because of Addison's.
Your thoughts on the elevated field? Do you like it?
I like it. I like it for the PGA.
It's interesting. It is interesting.
Yeah, those guys in those events will, the best of the best will be playing in those 8 events. Well, some of them will. Some are still and plus they're playing for rankings, That's the big deal with them.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of them there's some of them that won't play. Some of the tops won't play in all 8. Now, they talked about how they promised they would play in them.
Well, I think that's part of it. That you got to play in these events. If we're doing this, and we're cutting out half the field.
You guys have to show up.
You got to show up, and this is part of the PGA's push to make a better TV show, as it were. And that's what Live Golf has been selling is, we're going to have fun, we're going to have music playing, we're going to have teams, no cut, all the best players. Yet no one's paying attention to it.
Do you turn it off on those deals? I mean, on Sundays when
I do.
You do? You don't have any interest in what you saw last week? I did.
I watched those guys on 18 because the guy had one, then he hit it in the water. I'm like, come on, man.
Oh, just
But no, I will be the first to tell you that if it's not guys I know very well,
if it's not Scheffler and those guys,
I'll flip over to something else. I mean, I love golf, but at the same time,
you want to see the best of the best in that.
Like in the Phoenix, when it was the best of the best on Super Bowl Sunday, I sat there and watched the whole final round because it was Scheffler and Rahm and these guys, and
Sure.
I love watching that. But that's on me as a fan because when it's Chris Kirk and the other guy,
Sure.
not really. I'll go do chores. I live near the golf course. I'll go hit golf balls or something, whatever. But there we go. We come back. We're going to hit the hot or not topics. That'll be T.Y. Henderson. Tyrus will lead us through some topics we've missed halfway through a busy Thursday. Also, as we said, Mike Craven from Dave Campbell's Texas Football next hour, and David Pierce, head baseball coach at the U of Texas, coming back. Beanie on the Horn.
This segment brought to you by Altstead Beers, brewed right here in the heart of the Hill Country. Check out their state-of-the-art brewery, tap room, and restaurant next time you're in Fredericksburg. Altstead Beers, no impurities, no regrets.
No regrets whatsoever. Probably some regrets with Jalen Carter right now, the Georgia defensive lineman. We'll get back into that story. Also, Mike Craven from Dave Campbell's Texas Football joins us after the top of the hour. Also, a visit with David Pierce, head baseball coach at the U of Texas. Hey, how about on the hot side, Buck, and for you and Ty, certainly for Ty, who's a fast food junkie. How many fast food apps do you have on your phone where you're a member of the club and all that stuff?
Probably about a dozen.
A dozen. Gaw. Well, after a decade, your decade-long wait is over. Kentucky Fried Chicken is bringing back its Double Down sandwich for the first time in 10 years.
Doubling down, huh?
This is the one with 2 fried chicken patties instead of buns. They're selling it for 1 month starting next Monday.
I'm out on that.
Come on. What do you mean?
I'm not a KFC guy. I'm a Popeyes guy.
Well, you're brand loyal. No bread, just chicken patty. Bacon, cheese, sauce. Come on, you're our fast food guru. You got to go check it out.
No, KFC just it doesn't hit quite the same as it used to as a child.
The Colonel?
We're talking about the Colonel here.
Colonel Sanders?
Not Colonel Parker.
Not Colonel Cam Parker from the Midday or from the Light the Tower program here on the Horn. But yeah, they're bringing it back. The Double Down will be coming back to your Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'm trying to think where a Kentucky Fried Chicken even is.
There's one literally right across the street from my house, and I've never been.
Never been.
I've been to Kentucky Fried
That
Chicken.
seems a little stubborn by you, who have 12, 15
kind of snooty,
fast
aren't you?
food apps. I mean, you just decided you don't like it.
It makes me feel like crap every time I eat it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good reason.
That's the biggest thing with fast food is like how can you get past that hour
That feel?
lull after.
And after you eat Taco Bell, you just feel great.
I don't do Taco Bell either.
Oh, really?
No KFC or Taco Bell.
What's your go-to?
Well, just general fast food.
Yeah.
Whataburger.
Okay, there you
McDonald's.
go. There you go.
Popeyes.
Did you say Mickey D's in there?
Oh yeah.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
They cook that quarter pounder fresh these days.
Oh, come on.
Fresh as can be. Hey, on a not hot side, did you know? We talk about the NFL draft and where players from the state of Texas will go. Quentin Johnston, the receiver from TCU, who's from Temple. Yeah, he's a hot shot name in the. Did you realize this? I saw this that last 3 drafts actually check this. In the last 10 drafts from 2013 to 2022 time, Buck. Last 10 drafts, wide receivers drafted in the first 3 rounds, the hit rate I'll get this stat coming up. I got the stat all wrong, but we'll do that coming up. But we'll get into the wide receivers because the stat is this, Buck.
Their impact in the NFL?
Yeah, wide receivers out of the Big 12 have not been great in the National Football League that have been drafted high. Is there a correlation there for you of some kind?
No, not really. There's more speed. The more speed guys will come out of the SEC, I got to believe.
Yeah, I don't know.
And the Big Ten.
Well, the hit rate not great. Baylor's had some guys that have gone. Oklahoma,
sure,
have had some guys that have gone that just haven't in the last several years just haven't hit the mark there at the wide receiver position. We'll get into that in the combine coming up. Ty, what do you have for us in hot or not?
Well, Aaron Rodgers,
A-Rod.
So back to the Aubrey Marcus podcast that he was on. I think did it drop yesterday, right? The actual video of it.
Aubrey Marcus lives right here in Austin, Texas. A podcaster and fitness guru.
But one of the topics they discussed was Aaron Rodgers' pooping situation in the Darkness Retreat, and he said that my dumps were super smooth, and that his diet consisted mostly of really big salads, and that sometimes, I guess, in these retreats, it can be an issue for people not knowing when to stop wiping. So, but he said that he felt as if that he didn't even have to wipe most of the time.
Oh,
that it was so smooth.
Oh, it just came out smooth like that. Just plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. I was in my gastrology appointment with my gastrologist yesterday, and as she was a little late, I mean, not a little late, but late, on the walls, they have a poop chart. I mean, and they have a stomach. Of course, I didn't expect to see a thigh bone in that department, but they have a chart up there, like 1 to 10 on what it should be like and where you rank. Well, I was afraid to look up in that thing.
It's like the
I
hydration
learned
chart.
that.
Yeah,
That's
like
right.
a hydration chart. Yeah, I guess that's what
Well,
you're
I
supposed to
learned
have on your
that,
wall.
I told you that story on this show. That watching the Oprah Winfrey show back in the day, Dr. Oz,
Yeah.
he was always big on make sure you're checking out your poops. It's a great indicator of your overall health. Yeah, listen,
So Aaron Rodgers feeling good,
Feeling-
healthy.
it's Aaron Rodgers guy.
Did he,
man.
I hope he didn't step in anything. I mean, it's dark in there, right?
I don't
I don't need to know that, Aaron.
I know. Well, he was there 4 days, so he had to go, and he was in the dark. How does he even know? It's Aaron Rodgers,
He had
man.
a little
He's-
nightlight. He had a little nightlight in the bathroom.
Like, he doesn't have to do these podcasts, does he?
don't
Like, if he
think
just
so.
wanted to take a 4-day retreat and go get by himself, he doesn't have to tell anybody about it. But then he gets mad when people call him a diva, and it's like, well, don't go on the Pat McAfee show and announce you're doing it. Just go do it. Nobody knows where you are. And then come back and talk about your poops. Come on, man.
Yeah, I think he was probably a 2 on that scale of what I saw yesterday.
That's why we said it's like Meghan
Between
Markle.
a rabbit and a bird.
It's like Meghan Markle, the princess, right? It's like they say they want to be left alone, but they keep putting all their business out there for everybody to listen to. You don't have to do that.
You don't have to, but keep doing it.
Yeah.
Give it to us.
Come on, man. Make a decision. We'll be back. Beanie on the Horn. Put them together. It's a Thursday on B&E. That's right. The tradition unlike any other. The Buck-Offs and the Buck-Ons. Who has earned them the pat on the back or the kick in the rear. Heard Mike McCarthy speaking yesterday at the NFL Scouting Combine. He had his day in front of the mic and the podium and says since he's back calling plays and running the offense, it's the most fun he's had since he's been in Dallas. He's having fun.
It's going to be a fun season.
Oh, yeah. Ties all in on Big Mac.
Season of believing. Yes, indeed. No, not so fast.
Oh, yeah. He's taking control.
Best thing the Cowboys
offense
can do for this season is make sure they got enough money to pay Micah Parsons when that time comes. That's what they need to do.
Well, first they're going with CeeDee Lamb and Trayvon Diggs.
Oh, somebody else got to get paid first.
They're a year ahead of him on the schedule. Yeah. Mike McCarthy did say yesterday one of his main goals as a play caller will be reducing the number of hits on Dak Prescott. Might want to work. Did he mean hits or picks?
That means running the ball.
Did he mean picks or hits?
That means Dak needs to go ahead and make a decision on running the ball.
Didn't he lead the
quicker
NFL in interceptions even though he missed 5 games?
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, we don't want him to get hit, but we also don't want him to throw interceptions. Let's work on that in this game. They're going to run the ball, Ty. Who they handing it to? If you're for cutting Zeke Elliott,
Cut Zeke, bring him back, draft Bijan, Malik Davis.
there you go. Hand the rock to Bijan. I did see, we talked about Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network. He was on the Pat McAfee podcast yesterday and said he would love to see the Eagles draft Bijan Robinson with the 10th pick. He says, I know they won't, but if you're the Eagles, what if you traded back? Just trade back a little bit. Somebody will come up to get a prospect sliding. You trade back into the middle of the first round, add another draft pick later, and take the running back. Take the Bijan. But they also need.
They made the best move last year in football.
They did. Well, that's the thing. And
so I don't expect they would be dumb this year.
I mean, and I will say, if you were listening to this show, we were documenting it that at the start of league business last year at this time, March 1st, you would have said the Cowboys were in a better place than the Eagles roster-wise and player-wise. And
I thought so.
From March through the end of April in the draft, Eagles had a better run in free agency, in the draft, putting pieces around Jalen Hurts. Cowboys didn't. They traded Amari Cooper. They didn't sign any significant free agents. They did not have a lot of draft capital. But Eagles just, the A.J. Brown trade, the moves they made, the additions they made, just put them over the top, and then they were in the NFC Championship game.
They really thought Michael Gallup was going to come back and really be the same Michael Gallup as the year before, and they really thought Tolbert was going to be a special player for him. And they just got – and that whole thing with the wide receiver, that thing got really screwed up in a hurry. Well, and it mattered. And I think it did matter to Dak, too. I think that was a part of it, too.
Sure. Well, he's a quarterback who needs more weapons, not less.
Yes.
And they took away his main weapon. I mean, whatever you thought of Amari Cooper, Dak Prescott loved him.
That's right.
Dak Prescott was flat out a better quarterback when Amari Cooper was on the football field, and he wasn't there last year. CeeDee Lamb wasn't bad, but you're right. And look, Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones have both admitted as much that we were overconfident in how quickly Michael Gallup could get healthy.
Yeah.
We were overconfident that we could draft a receiver. But that's the problem with that front office. A good general manager is looking for problems, anticipating, assuming this is not going to go great, right? What's our cause? Whereas Jerry Jones typically overly optimistic about things, which, that gets them in trouble in those spots. But that's where they are.
Yeah, Michael Gallup wasn't a speedster, and when he was healthy, he wasn't he was that long striding type of guy.
Big play receiver, good player, 3rd-round pick out of Colorado State who showed some flashes. But that's when they had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb on the field with him.
Right.
I mean, he's the third option, so he's taking third coverage, third corners, and good matchups, favorable. And he
is a big dude.
But this as your second option, you're not sure yet.
I don't know why I say that. Is he a big dude? Is he 6'3"?
He's like 6'2", but
6'2",
but he's got some hops.
He plays tall.
He's a red zone threat for sure.
Yeah, he can get up there and get the ball.
He's a high point guy.
Yeah, should have kept Cedric Wilson. That's also a strong argument.
I would agree.
He wasn't utilized at all.
I know he went to Miami and they never threw him the ball. He returned punts, but he didn't do much in Miami because they had Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. But yeah, they were adding weapons to try to put around their young quarterback. Cowboys were removing them. Let's get to the headlines, trending topics. Then we're going to talk to our friend Mike Craven. Dave Campbell's Texas football preview, some Longhorn spring practice. Top Gun Equipment Rentals bringing you the news. Start with the college hoops. And yeah, the Longhorns' hopes of at least a share of the Big 12 regular season championship came to an end last night in Fort Worth. TCU held off another furious second-half rally from the Longhorns and spoiled the title dream 75-73. It's been a frustrating trend for Texas. Another rough first half against a ranked Big 12 opponent. They found themselves down double digits in the intermission, 44-32, allowed TCU to shoot 62% in the first half. As usual, though, they made the halftime adjustments, clamped down on defense, and rallied, cut the TCU lead to 3 with 1:07 to go. That's when the Horned Frogs got a big offensive rebound, and Damian Baugh capped a 24-point night with a pair of free throws. Then the Frogs closed out the win with a breakaway dunk from Emmanuel Miller against Texas pressure. Horns now 22-8 overall, 11-6 in Big 12 play, 2 full games behind the champion Kansas Jayhawks. Rodney Terry, though, still optimistic this team can do great things.
You know, this time of year in March, I mean, you're playing for seeding, you're playing to put yourself in the best position for the big prize. And I do, still feel like we have a team that can win the big prize. So we got to still continue to fight and want to come out and compete at a high level.
Certainly do. They'll wrap up their regular season against the Big 12 champion Kansas Jayhawks this Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Elsewhere in college hoops last night, Kansas State whipped Oklahoma 85-69, so they pull into that three-way tie with Texas and Baylor, all at 11-6 in the Big 12. Second-ranked Alabama clinched the outright SEC regular season title. They rallied from 17 down and beat Auburn in overtime last night, 90-85. And NBA was a successful Phoenix debut for Kevin Durant. His new team, they beat Charlotte 105-91. Durant scored 23. Devin Booker scored 37. Milwaukee Bucks have won 16 in a row now. They beat Orlando easily last night. Jason Tatum scored 41 to lead Boston past Cleveland. And, of course, the Rockets lost. That's 11 in a row now. They got beat by Memphis last night. NFL on-field drills and workouts begin today at the Combine. 4 days of on-field work. Today it's the defensive linemen and linebackers first up. So Keandre Coburn, Moro Ojimo, former Longhorns, along with DeMarvion Overshown, will be taking part. Ahead of the workouts, a major development yesterday. One defensive lineman that won't be working out is Georgia star Jalen Carter, one of the top prospects in next month's draft, has been charged with a pair of misdemeanors, reckless driving and racing, in connection with the crash that killed a teammate and a recruiting staff member back in January. All right, the Jalen Carter conversation we had heavy in the 6 o'clock hour. As you say, Buck, poor judgment, character. If he left the scene of a tragic accident, that's going to be discouraging to anyone that you would not try to help. We don't know that he didn't. He's been put out a pretty adamant statement that he'll be cleared of all these charges when the true facts come through. But one thing is clear: he's told 3 different stories to the police for his actions on that night, which is going to make police suspicious. The police say, according to eyewitnesses and camera footage that they've uncovered, just like security camera footage and just city cameras, there were 3 cars that were apparently racing. His Jeep, what do they call it, Trailhawk. Also, the Expedition that wrecked and killed 2 people were killed, and another Dodge Charger driven by a teammate, a linebacker. So there were 3 cars kind of racing, it appears. And
someone on this text line said earlier, what if there's no aid to render? I'm like, what do you mean? That means stay there until the cops, till somebody gets there. That doesn't mean, okay, I go down, then I disappear.
Well, aid to render meaning he wrote DOA. I mean, the 2 people, the accident at 104 miles an hour hitting 2 utility poles and a tree.
Well, there's
car
aid
was
to render.
Split in half. But there were 2 people in the back seat. And I believe that there were 4 people in the car at the time. The 2 in the front seat were the ones that were killed.
Right.
So, yeah, there was aid to render. But, again, we don't know factually that he didn't. We know he was there at the scene until the authorities were coming, and then he left and then came back at some point later.
Sound like an hour later.
But, again, he hasn't been charged. I mean, based on their investigation, everyone's talking about failure to render aid and leaving the scene, and he hadn't been charged with that. He was charged with reckless driving and racing, which those are both misdemeanor crimes. But we'll follow that story. But obviously, it's going to bring into account his draft status, and NFL teams are going to have to fully vet that situation. Still going to be drafted
in the top 5 or 6.
And I heard people yesterday talking about on national shows about what about Kirby Smart? What's Kirby Smart? I mean, Kirby Smart put out a statement, but he doesn't play for Georgia anymore. These things happen after hours.
Correct.
These are adults. They've got to make better decisions, and I don't know what the athletic director and AD or coach can do about that. That was just really, really reckless and poor judgment by some young people. And obviously the driver of the expedition, the young lady who works for the department.
Which that car was not to be used for that purpose.
Yeah, and that car was used for
Which that's on the University of Georgia.
And she was highly intoxicated, it appears. I mean, by the toxicology reports, 0.19. So not just a little intoxicated, but very intoxicated at 104 miles an hour. So just a tragic situation in all aspects. All right, let's get to the Vaqueros hotline because we mentioned earlier big exciting news announced yesterday by Dave Campbell's Texas Football that they are launching a really aggressive digital and online campaign. We know that the Dave Campbell's Texas Football magazine is the Bible of Texas football here in the great state on Texas Independence Day, but the digital push is there, and we're going to be and the next guest, our man Mike Craven of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, formerly of the Austin American Statesman, are launching a new podcast called the Eyes on Texas podcast, which will begin next week. And we're excited to talk about it and talk about the push that Dave Campbell's is making and talk some football with Mike Craven. Hello, Mike.
How you guys doing?
Doing good, Michael. Yourself?
I'm doing good, It's March, so the allergies are starting up. But other than that, I'm hanging in there.
There you go. Hey, listen, tell the audience, I mean, I know if you grew up in the state of Texas, you know the magazine and Dave Campbell, the name Dave Campbell's, but you have informed me in our conversations about launching this podcast that Dave Campbell's is now owned by Drayton McClain, the former Houston Astros owner, and got his name on the football stadium. And it sounds like he and the team there are making a pretty heavy investment into the magazine, but also the digital component of football in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, TexasFootball.com has been for about 5 years now, pretty daily content-wise. You know, we do features, we do stories. And so we're trying to get our footprint across the state at the college level the same way we have it at the high school level. And at the high school level, we're known as a place that covers 2A as much as we cover 6A. We cover East Texas, same as West Texas, same as Dallas, same as Houston. And so we want to carry that same motto, you know, to the college side and cover Texas A&M, all the way down to Texas State, Mary Hardin, Baylor, Sul Ross, right? We want to cover the whole state. And so one of the ways that we think we can do that is by having this podcast network and getting with people that are already in those markets. And, you know, hopefully by the time football season starts, we have a podcast in all 13 FBS markets in the state. Right now we have 6 going into spring practice, so we're kind of on our way there. And so, yeah, we're just trying to extend the footprint. And in a shrinking media world, you know, we're hoping that we can expand a little bit and provide some coverage that, you know, may be lacking across the state.
All the way to Alpine, Texas, huh?
All the way to Alpine.
I'm trying to get a big bend on the company dime.
There you go.
There you go. And
love it.
I saw your tweet yesterday, Michael, that you started there last year. You left the Statesman, and you were the first, only one employee. I mean, they're really expanding this pretty rapidly, which I'm excited to be a part of with you. Eyes on Texas Pod will begin next week, and we'll cover spring practice and a lot of digital content. Excited about it. And your coverage of Texas football, I mean, you're going to cover all the schools in the state like you do such a great job of. But for Texas particularly, as we were talking about earlier, you grew up, as you told me, Texas football was kind of your babysitter when you were growing up going to work with your grandpa.
Yeah, I mean, I used to follow around, Bucky and John Bianco kind of guys and just kind of hang out, while my grandfather was taping ankles and putting people in ice baths and making them ride, 20 miles on a bike. If you ask Rod Babers about those kind of stories and stuff like that. And so, yeah, during the summer, during spring break, during Christmas break and stuff, I'd load up in his truck. I'd go up to Texas and I'd just hang out all day, all week and stuff. Lance Gunn was probably my first favorite player of all time. I was at that Cotton Bowl, Miami, Texas, when I was like 5 years old. That was kind of, my first memory of football. And I remember my grandfather and my dad being very angry about that Miami team and me thinking it was super cool. And it was kind of my first active rebellion. And so, yeah, I've been, I'm a lifelong Austinite. I know that's kind of a unicorn thing. Most people move down here. I was born here, been around the school forever. And so, yeah, it's fun to kind of join forces. Been listening to y'all's show, since I could drive. And so it's kind of fun to combine all these things. And I think it's going to be a fun trip. Yeah,
you hit it on the nail. How about Lance Gunn? What a great young athlete and a great young man, too. I don't know if he's still a young man now, is he? Is he? Lance has got to be in his 40s. He's like he's not 50, I don't believe.
I bet he is. I'm 50. And Lance Gunn was playing college ball, and I was still in high school.
What a fabulous young guy he is, though. He is fantastic.
Hey,
I'm almost 40.
You're almost 40, you said?
Yeah.
Yes.
So Lance got to be over 50.
He does.
Oh.
Hey, Mike, we'll get into some spring practice conversations here coming up. The biggest questions you have for Texas headed to the spring, and it promises to be Coach Sark's most competitive spring as far as position competition and depth at key spots, including quarterback. But let me ask you quickly, because the Combine is the top of mind story, and you and I were talking about Bijan Robinson. When you first saw him play high school football, you said he was one of a handful of guys that you saw, and within 5 minutes, you said that's an NFL football player right there.
Yeah, I mean, guys like Myles Garrett, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence were on that list. You know, when I was doing the recruiting thing full time, I used to try to think, like, if my mom walked out here, how quickly would she know who the best football player was, right? And, like, Bijan was one of those kind of instant guys where you could see all the tools, you could see it on tape, you could see it in person. You know, he was bigger, faster, stronger than everybody on the field. And then you started to talk to him and you realize, oh, well, this is like talking to a 25-year-old already when he was 17. He was just so mature. He talked about other people and what he could give and what he could bring back to the community and how he could help out the community around Austin. He was doing that as a senior in high school, right? And so it was one of those things where you knew if he stayed healthy, and everything went to plan, he was going to be in this exact situation, and you couldn't help it. You couldn't ask for a better person to be in that spot, too. Like, he's just such a nice kid that it's awesome to see him kind of get all his flowers over those last couple of years.
You also covered Roschon Johnson when he was at PNG. Let me ask you, for this year's team for Texas, the running back battle. I mean, how tough do you think it's going to be for the Longhorns to replace that production? We talk about how the offensive line was improved last year, but we know Bijan Robinson forced more missed tackles than any running back in the country. Roschon, run after contact was so great. I mean, they got to have some running backs step up, because I do think those backs helped the offensive line look improved last year. They're going to need. What do you make of the running back room in Texas right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to undoubtedly take a step back, right? I mean, you can't replace Bijan Robinson, Roschon Johnson, and not take a little bit of step back talent-wise, even though, I mean, Jonathan Brooks is former Mr. Texas football. Jaden Blue is awesome. Cedric Baxter is going to be great. So I think they're going to be fine there. I think any step they take backwards, though, at running back is going to be made up for the steps forward they take on the offensive line. Bringing back 5 starters, a couple guys behind them with some experience, some really good young players that are ready to step up. And so, I'm a believer that the running back position and the run game a lot of times is defined by the offensive line, and the running backs get that glory, even though it's an offensive line type stat. And so I think Texas is going to be fine running the football. For me, it's figuring out how to get the production out of the backfield in the passing game that you're going to lose from Bijan Robinson. I think that's going to be one of the interesting things they're going to have to figure out, because that bailed them out of a lot of things last year.
Michael, there's one thing that there's nothing I don't think you can deny, is the fact that they've got a heck of a running back coach, a guy who's played in the league, a guy who I think is going to help them tremendously when they're losing that kind of production for Roschon and Bijan. I think when you get a guy that they have like they have right now, I mean, just his rapport with those players and the way he can recruit right now is going to be big for years to come. I mean, his impact on not only the guys that are leaving, but the guys that are right here is going to help a lot. Now, and I think you're right about the offensive line. You're going to see there'll be more holes. There'll be less guys having to make miss in the holes. There'll be like real live holes coming up over the next couple of years with this offensive line. But to have a good running back coach that when you have players that are good players, not great players, but some good players, I think that's going to really bode well for Texas.
Yeah, I mean, you lose Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson, and you're still there with Jaden Blue, Jonathan Brooks, Cedric Baxter, 5-star guy, right? I mean, the talent is there. It's still loaded up, and I think you're right. I mean, when Stan Drayton left, it was like, oh, okay, what's going to happen to this running back position? Because he was so vital in bringing in the guys that we were just talking about. Coach Choice has stepped right in there. They believe in him, and he's bringing in his own group of guys that are super talented. And so it's just going to roll on. And I think that offense is a fun one to play in. And if you're a running back, and Texas has proven that if you're coming there, even if you're a backup like Roschon, he's getting talked about as a third-round guy, right? And so, I think there's plenty of snaps to go around. They've proven that. They've developed that. And, we're starting to see, the benefit of that track record.
Yeah, Tashard Choice doing a good job. And now they have a new wide receivers coach in Chris Jackson, and they're loaded there. A.D. Mitchell transfers in from Georgia. Isaiah Nair getting healthy. Jordan Whittington's returning. So they feel really good there. Obviously, Jatavion Sanders in the tight end room in a good place. And that leads you back to quarterbacks, Mike. I mean, it'll be a big story here when spring begins. It'll be a huge story for you guys at Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com. Arch Manning, I mean, how much does he push Quinn Ewers? How much opportunity does he get? Is there an actual quarterback competition? I think most people believe this is Quinn Ewers' job, but what's your thought on Arch, being a part of this quarterback room?
I think it should light a fire under Quinn. Right? I think if there's a negative about Quinn Ewers last year, the deep ball was inconsistent, but he just he has like a lackadaisical way about him. And I don't know if that's just his personality, the way he goes. It's probably not that way behind the scenes, but it can appear that way sometimes. Well, when you have a guy with the last name Manning with that kind of hype around him, it's only going to push you to be better. And so I would imagine, Quinn is going to work harder than he's ever had to work in his life over this offseason. I think that only makes him better. Iron sharpens iron, the way that the players and coaches at every university always talk about that. And I think one of the things that's different about Texas over the last 12, 13 years than it was when I was a kid following around Bucky and being at practice and stuff was the second string versus first string and the first string versus first string. That was as fun as the games. When you would watch Roy Williams go up against Nathan Vasher, that was an event. And I think they're getting back towards that. And having 2-3 really good quarterbacks on campus is only going to push those guys to be better and better. And you're going to have to show up every day or somebody's going to come take your job. And I think that's true at most positions at UT right now. And I think that's the reason that I'm kind of, gung-ho on their possibilities over the next couple of years, because it's starting to get back to where, practice is going to be as tough or even tougher than most of the games they're going to play this year.
Yeah, he's got to play with a little bit of an edge. And that edge is somebody pushing your ass at practice and pushing your ass in meetings. And as you say, even the Manning name is going to push Quinn Ewers to get himself geared up. I mean, he needs that edge. That laid back stuff is, that's okay, when you're out at the club somewhere. But when you're on the football field, no thanks. He's going to need that edge, and that edge means he's going to have to get upset at himself when he doesn't do the right thing. It's not going to be that nonchalant kind of attitude, I believe, that but he's going to need help still. And that wide receiver group is going to have to help him out an awful lot, Michael. That group last year may be the most disappointing group on the football team. I'm not talking about just on the offense, but on the entire football team. That was a disappointing group. As a group, there were some individuals that made steps up, but as a group, I just didn't. I don't know what the coaching was like there, but it was just not very good. The coordination between the head coach, who's an offensive coordinator, the wide receiver coach, and the players themselves, it was not good.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think they would tell you that not having Isaiah Nayor kind of put Xavier Worthy in a position where he wasn't really the wide receiver he wanted to be. He wasn't doing those kind of middle routes that he can take the catch and then go 30, 40 yards on his own. He was having to be a deep threat guy that maybe doesn't suit him just because he's not big enough and strong enough to kind of go up and be a dude that can high point a ball and really win on vertical routes. I think having A.D. Mitchell, having Nayor, healthy, I think that's going to allow him to be the receiver and run the routes we saw him succeed so much as a freshman. I think we know what Jordan Whittington is at this point. JT Sanders, probably the best, tight end in the state, probably the best tight end in the Big 12, obviously. And so, I think it comes down to Nayor and Mitchell. If those guys can be what we think they are and can live up to that hype, I think Texas has a weapon at every single spot on the field and has a couple coming off the bench. If they disappoint and it makes it to where Xavier Worthy's got to be everything, I think we saw last year that he is limited in a few things that he can do. And so, and then, it just comes down to timing and consistency with the passing game. And then I'd love to ask you this question. Sometimes it feels like Steve Sarkisian calls plays like he's playing a video game, as if in theory it's going to get somebody open. But sometimes you got to call plays that your players can execute. It felt like there was times last year he was calling plays that got people open, but maybe he knew weren't going to be successful. And I think sometimes he's got to put his pride and ego to the side and just call plays that are going to work, in real life, maybe not just
well, I just think a guy like that Jordan Whittington that he loves so much and you didn't get him the ball enough, he was a guy who was really, to me, that was consistent on a consistent basis. And consistency was meaning being on the field. He stayed healthy. He showed what he's like when he's healthy. Then even this year, as much as these guys that we talk about, Nayor and the other guy, get the ball to Jordan Whittington. You can count on him. He seems like he's going to be there. He was there for a whole year for you. Now make it work with him. And your commitment to the run, it all depends on how the run is. If your passing game and everybody is consistent on the right page, you don't have to be that committed to the run. If your passing game and what you know best, what Sark does, is I think he knows the pass game well enough, but you have to be consistent in that passing game. And if they are, then I don't know if you have to have that crazy commitment because you're going to lose a lot. Now, you can run the ball and run the ball with some success, but that whole being committed to the run game, like no matter what, throw the ball down the field if the guys are in the spots where they need to be and they can actually catch the ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you can get a quarterback to get it there consistently.
Right.
Yeah, young quarterback, some issues at receiver. We'll see if that all comes together, and looking forward to it. Mike Craven, you read his stuff at Dave Campbell's Texas Football, texasfootball.com, and he and I are going to be launching a podcast. It's called the Eyes on Texas podcast, part of the digital network there at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Of course, the Horn here as well. We're really excited about that. It starts first. We're recording Tuesday, Mike, and we'll get it out in time for the first week of spring practice and all through spring and beyond. Looking forward to doing it, and thanks for jumping on with us.
Thank you, Mike.
Excited. See y'all guys later.
Thank you.
Yeah, TexasFootball.com is where you'll find all the details
Lance
of the
Gunn
six.
is 53.
Yeah, the 6 podcasts that were announced, and the Eyes on Texas. If you're looking to follow it, we got Eyes on Texas FB on Twitter. We've got an Instagram account going. So, yeah, the Eyes on Texas podcast, which I'm excited to be a part of with Mike. And great guests, great conversation, Texas football heavy. It starts on Tuesday. We'll come back. When we do, speaking of heavy, we're going to have a heavy conversation with David Pierce, Longhorn head baseball coach, coming off back-to-back losses now to Indiana and then LSU. Can they turn the page and head out to Cal State Fullerton? We'll talk to Coach next on B&E.
It's Bucky and Aaron.
Happy birthday to the great state. Yeah, today is Texas Independence Day, March 2nd, 1836. We'll have some fun with the good stuff with Ty on the music. Thanks to Mike Craven. We've got Gossip and Blitz for the top of the hour and a Craig Way report. But right now, as always on a Thursday, we go to the Vaqueros hotline and talk baseball with the skipper, the head coach of the Longhorn baseball team. David Pierce joins us for his weekly conversation. Coach, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We're okay, Coach. How about yourself?
Doing well. Doing very well.
Hey, 8 games in. Obviously, you knew there'd be some challenges with all the new faces, 19 or 20 new players, and a lot of new coaches. What's your assessment after 2 weeks, sitting with 3 wins, 5 losses, and headed to California?
A new team that's played a lot of great competition and, faced some really good stuff on the mound. And I think when you come out of the gates and you're a freshman or a newcomer, and that's kind of the first thing you see, it can be overwhelming. You open up your season at Globe Life, but I do like our team. I think we're really progressing, especially on the pitching side, and we just have so much room to grow and get better. And I'm seeing it in our team. I love the way we competed on Tuesday. We never accept a moral victory, of course, but at the same time, we have played 8 games, and we're moving in a progressive direction and a positive direction for our team to get better.
Coach, when you talk about, watching pitching and how it establishes itself, and that sometimes that takes a while too, although you have new fielders out there, younger players on the field of play. But at that pitching position, the way you talk about growth is that, that's a good thing to hear. But you're going to have to manufacture some runs in a way too, and that does take some time. Guys don't just come out slugging the ball all over the place at this level of baseball, and it looks like it will take some time. And when I say manufacture runs, that's not just the players. That's the coaching staff also. Is that correct?
I think we're all a unit, and we work together, and we got to figure out our personnel and what they can do well, and how guys come off the bench, et cetera. You look at, if you just had an opportunity to choose one phase of the game, you had pitching, defense, and the offensive side. And I don't really say hitting. I'd rather look at offense more as a coordinator, more as scoring runs. And if you were trying to establish and start a program, you would definitely want to start with pitching and then have your defense and pitching feed off of each other as you become better as an offensive unit. And we've always prided ourselves in scoring in multiple ways versus just being a team that bangs the ball or just a short game team. So that's kind of where we are. And then you look at, think about this. Tuesday night, you face 2 guys right-handed that are 97, 98, and a left-hander out of the bullpen, 94 with a plus slider. You got less than a second to figure out whether I should swing at it or not. It's a learning curve. So some of the movement that you've had maybe in the past as a hitter, you're having to understand that you got to shorten some of that movement up to be able to make better decisions and get the bad head out. So I like where our kids are mentally. For a new and young team and coming out of Omaha last year, the expectations for these guys are tremendous, but they also put too much pressure on themselves to get to where they can go. And so I just think they have to stay away from the distractions, continue to play for each other, and continue to get better.
Yeah. When we used to talk to Augie, he'd always say, you can't try to do it, guys. We just got to train ourselves and then do it. And because when you start trying is when the pressure gets to you. Hey, how about LBJ? Last week we talked about LeBaron Johnson Jr.'s start on Tuesday last week against A&M Corpus. He called it All-American caliber stuff, big league stuff. And then to see him against that lineup, against that group at LSU that was coming in, batting 400 or whatever, all the 400 hitters, he was outstanding, without a doubt, for 5 innings and 9 strikeouts. Dominant stuff, obviously encouraging, and maybe a guy that you end up moving into a weekend starter at some point here as we get into March and beyond.
Yeah, it's just it was fun to watch. That's a good lineup, and it goes back to a good pitch is a good pitch, and just continue to repeat good pitches. But if you can do that with stuff like he was throwing, Mike Scott was in the mid 80s for the Astros and threw a split finger and dominated. And right now, LBJ is up to 97, touching an 8 and throwing a splitter up to 91 miles an hour with a pretty good slider. So if you can throw it around the plate, it's pretty good stuff. And he showed that stuff and location can beat anybody.
You know, Coach, it was a little bit later on in the month of March last year when we had talked about all the different lineups and everybody you were trying to get guys in place and went on to have a really successful season last year. This group may take longer. I know fans always want more, but when you got a young group like this, it may take longer. But it's looking like you're starting to see some of the fruits of the labor, you know, as this time goes on. And you know, we did appreciate that because you did. You know, you said it on this very show. This is our guys. This is who we're going with. And I mean, you guys went on to do that. I mean, totally different type of group right here, and it may take a little bit longer. And I think if folks are patient, I think the product is going to be very, very good.
I really appreciate you bringing that up because it was mid-March in 21, and you know we were playing well, but not as well as we needed to play and wanted to play. And we went into KU and basically said, "Look, this is the lineup. You guys are going to work around the lineup. Doesn't mean you have a chance to get in there, but right now we're going to stick with this group and utilize you other guys in spots and maybe lopsided games and give you opportunity because you also work hard. But this is our lineup." And we went on a 16-game winning streak. And they were talented, I understand that, but just the ease of mind to know that you're going to go 0 for 4 and still be in there tomorrow unless you're not giving effort and that a poor attitude, which we don't really coach because we expect that. So we're still in that phase of how our combinations work, you know, but we're getting closer. We're getting closer, and especially defensively, I really like where we are in the outfield. Our two catchers have done well. Infield play is solid, but not even close where it needs to be. And so we just keep trying to grow. And I think it's easy to go in a negative direction when you have a below 500 record this early. So it's my job to keep them positive, keep them moving in the right direction, and stay excited because I know they can get better and they know they can get better. It was pretty interesting. Sunday we had some really terrible base running mistakes, and it was just in communication. It wasn't called. And you're talking about fan base and impatient. I love our fan base. I'm running off the field Sunday and got booed from third base. And I'm like, I would boo us too right now. I would literally boo us the way we were running the bases. And so I appreciate the educated fan base and understanding the game. But at the same time, there's a little patience here that we need to all have, and we'll be just fine.
Coach, you mentioned that. You called it one of the most embarrassing losses you've been around with the caught stealings and the base running miscues and the miscommunication. Take us behind the scenes on that and how you've worked to rectify it. And is the pitch clock or any of the timing issues adding to the stress on that, or is this just guys got to pick up the sign and guys got to know that and be on the same page?
Yeah, we went to our card system a few years ago, and the only way you can miss the sign is if you don't read the number correctly because it's kind of broken down in different little quadrants. And so that can happen, but it shouldn't happen. And, you know, or unless I give the wrong sign. But we just got caught into not understanding situational baseball and thinking that's what the sign was versus even if you thought that, and step back and go, there's no way that we're going to run a delay steal with the right-handed hitter down 2 in the 6th inning. And, you know, it's just part of new players understanding us and us understanding them. So, you know, we're not perfect. Our kids are still young players and they're awesome and they want to do well, but sometimes they just try to do too much. And so, we've rectified that. I'm not saying we're going to be perfect still, but we address it. Trust me, we address it.
Yeah, some of the signs are your simple signs that they're making just, you know, I would think that they're making more of it than really it is. Read what it's on the card and just go with what's on the card.
Yeah, I mean, we even have, I just added with right at first and said, look, just make them read the number back to you. and if it matches yours, then we're good. And so they'll get trained to do it correctly and feel comfortable with it.
Cal State Fullerton, Coach, they're off to a 2-4 start, so a couple of teams that are traditional college powers off to a bit of a slow start, but that's what's going to make for a great series this weekend, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon. What's your scouting report on the Titans?
Well, up to this point, if you looked at our group, you'd say we can't play defense, and we can pitch a little bit. Well, if you look at their guys, you would say they can hit a little bit. They're not too bad defensively, but they can't pitch. And so, again, it's the two teams that understand how to play the game, that both come out of the gate slowly. And I think you're going to start seeing both teams become better teams as the season progresses. But, California is always a different road trip. So we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to getting on a plane together and going out and competing.
I love the fact that you said we're looking forward to going out and being together, because this is that first real road game away from, kind of neutral sites or at home. I mean, you're going on the road. You've got a bunch of young players that they've traveled, through the ranks of baseball, but as a group, as a college group, some of them for the first time. I know how coaches get. It's a little weird for coaches. They want 150% focus on baseball, and some of the things outside of baseball on these trips for the first time. I've been around where I'm staring down a guy who's talking about something more than baseball on a trip. So they got to get used to you, and you have to get used to them as a staff also.
Yeah, well, I also look at that too. Is we've always had just tremendous character in our program, and when you go on the road and understanding why you're going on the road,
business trip.
Yeah, and we just try to stay away from, we have a curfew, but if I'm worried about curfew and guys coming in at 2:00 in the morning and doing things that don't match what our goals are, then we get the wrong character. So just kind of that's part of our recruiting process as well. But I'm not too worried about that piece. It's just, you get on different surfaces, you get in different lights and lighting. And so that's the adjustment. We always go in on Thursday. Tonight we'll have a really complete practice, kind of get familiar with the ballpark, the speed of the turf, the speed of the dirt. We went over to Hudson Tillotson Field yesterday and took ground balls. Just always kind of thinking ahead and working towards our prep to give our kids the best chance to do well.
Coach, safe travels to the West Coast, and let's go get some wins out there against the Titans. It's going to be a fun series. We'll be listening to it here on the Horn.
Good luck, Coach.
All right. I appreciate you guys. Hook 'em horns.
You too. Thanks, Coach. David Pierce every Thursday, 8:30, talking Texas baseball. Yeah, young team trying to figure it out. They played some really good competition, including the number one team in the country, and we'll see if they can build, even on the loss on Tuesday, to compete and be right there with that team, see if that can take them in. Because, Buck, the schedule, I don't want to say eases up, but Cal State Fullerton under 500.
Yeah, they're having their struggles too.
Yeah, and if their pitching is struggling, see if Texas can get their bats going, because then they come home for Sam Houston. Then they play Manhattan next weekend. So March is a chance to build some confidence, which I like that in the schedule with a young team. Test them early against really high bar competition, see how they rally. And as you heard Coach say, they didn't back down. They didn't play great all the time, but they didn't back down and they competed. Now you got to go beat these teams that you're probably better than here over the next several weekends. We'll talk about it, obviously, every Thursday with Coach at 8:30, a weekly feature here on B&E. Coming back, another daily feature. That's the Blitz. They've been good this week, so let's keep that rolling. 447-3776, loaded up, plus some gossip. First, here's Craig. No games, just gossip. Brought to you by the ice-cold, frosty Bud Lights. There'll be plenty of Bud Lights consumed out at the Rodeo Barbecue Cook-Off this weekend. You know, today's weather rough, but the weekend looks great. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll check in the next hour with our buddy Dale Freitag out there with the Snake Farm crew. They're setting up the pit. They're getting ready to go and compete in the always tremendous Rodeo Austin Barbecue Cook-Off. So looking forward to that. A lot of Bud Lights there. Bud Lights watching baseball all weekend, college hoops. Whatever you're doing, do it with a nice cold Bud Light, the world's favorite light beer and the official domestic beer partner of your Texas Longhorns, Buck. And salacious gossip. Load up your blitz. Hey, Ty and Buck, you know what a content creator is? Content creator? I guess we could call ourselves content creators,
sure.
Right? We create content every morning, but it's more primarily known now as on social media. You create content. Like you have a YouTube page or you have a TikTok channel.
TikTokers of the group.
You know how many people? I'm going to have you guess this, Ty, because you're of that generation. How many people in the world call themselves content creators or consider themselves content creators?
25 million.
Double it.
50?
50 million people around the world now consider themselves content creators. Come on, man. That's a crowded field at this point. But you know what?
Goodness.
That's why TikTok, how about this? The app itself, TikTok out of China, is going to start limiting kids under 18 to 1 hour of viewing the social media app per day.
There you go.
Kids under 12 won't be able to keep using it unless a parent or guardian punches in a code. Kids 13 and up can enter their own code, but they still get the alerts. They have to actively choose to keep scrolling 1 hour per day because I guess they're dealing with kids that are on that thing all day, 6 hours, 7 hours at a time.
TikTok a freebie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just quick videos. But yes, those kids are going to figure out that code.
Of course, yeah.
How long before the kids got that
hey,
under
Mom,
control?
you got the code? Give me the code. Give me the code.
Yeah. Come on, man. They got that done.
I still got to give Dion the big buck off, too. But I have to buck myself off, too, because that was, at one time, I was a dream crusher when I told the kids, Mom, you mean he wants to be an engineer? You mean like, toot?
You crushed his dream.
I crushed his dream. Guaranteed that kid hasn't built a bridge yet. Or that grown man hasn't built a bridge yet.
You're just being honest with him.
Oh.
Dion was being honest.
Yeah.
But at the same time, don't need to say it.
Nah.
How about we mentioned Kentucky Fried Chicken bring back its Double Down Sandwich. So if you want the heart attack on a plate, you're in a wrapper. It's going to be coming your way here in about Monday.
Does that mean you have to touch the chicken with your hands?
Yeah.
Sorry, Buck.
I don't know how they do this. Yeah, but it's 2 fried chicken patties instead of buns, and then inside the buns there'll be like bacon and lettuce, and like I said, that's the bun. Yeah, it's going to be, that thing is... I
can touch the lettuce, but you actually touch the chicken is the bun?
The chicken is the bun.
I don't
that's
do that.
Greasy,
I don't do chicken with my hands, so...
This says, what if you're an influencer and have a podcast, E. Hogan? Ha, ha, ha. Well,
it's a double influencer.
We're
all influencers.
Yes.
We influence a lot of things.
Good or bad?
Yes. This says, are they going to barbecue rattlesnakes at the barbecue cook-off? Maybe. We'll ask Dale.
There you go.
They'll cook a rattle. You know, they do on Friday nights have like the specialty dish.
Ooh.
Because, on Saturday you turn in your chicken, you turn in your ribs, you turn in your brisket, all the the main courses.
Naked and Afraid, they eat muskrats and all kinds of...
Ooh.
I guess if you're hungry, you'll eat anything, won't you?
Hey, I smoked some chicken wings last night.
Ooh.
Maybe the best wings
what else
I've ever had in my
smoke?
life.
Before you smoke them wings.
There
you go.
That's a highly recommended dish, by the way, and an easy one. If you go to the H-E-B, they got the pre-made wings, like the pre-seasoned.
Okay.
In different seasonings. They're ready to go. You let them get to room temperature. You throw them in your air fryer for 20 minutes, and bang.
I'm talking smoker.
You smoked them. Way to go, Ty.
2 hours.
Our friends out at Hayes City Store and Ice House, my man, they smoke their wings. Those are real. That's what makes them so good. They smoke their wings. Those are outstanding, without a doubt. That sounds good. But we'll talk some barbecue coming up and what's coming up at the cook-off. We're looking forward to that. Let's get to your Blitz.
The Bucky and E Blitz.
Here you go. First Blitzer, you're up.
Yeah, I wish y'all wouldn't bring up the Miami game. This is Lance Gunn.
Back in the day.
By the way,
game.
Mike Craven, said his first memory of Texas football was watching the Cotton Bowl. 46-3, was it?
That was not fun.
By the way, Mike admitted to me that it was his first act of rebellion because he kind of liked Miami. He's like,
wow.
Oh, they're cool.
Next Blitzer, talk to us.
Swag.
Hey, Buck.
Yes, sir.
You watched that Alabama game last night?
Roll
Tide. That Brandon Miller, he really ain't a shooter, but he bring them assists.
God, what a game that was last night. That
Somebody
OT.
jokes about murder, okay?
Really. Next Blitzer, you're up.
I'm trying to understand here. A year ago, Bijan was underutilized. J.T. Sanders was underutilized. Jordan Whittington was underutilized. Roshan Johnson was underutilized. What does the OC do here?
What is it that you do here? Is that the call right now?
Well, they got to utilize their talent.
Got to win the championship this year.
Double digits for sure.
Next Blitzer, you're up.
You know, it's kind of hard to complain about the officiating last night, especially when the ref teed up your coach. But you really can't complain if you don't lead at any point of the game. This team is exhausted. Skip the tournament and go to March.
Oh,
Look, I think, we'll get into that coming up with Texas basketball.
Got to reach that crescendo, I got to believe. Next Blitzer, you're up.
Hey, you want to be in the movies? They're filming Texas Walker Ranger on McGregor Road in Dripping Springs, right next to Steve Shubin's house. That's a hell of a party. You don't want to miss that party.
McGregor Lane, I know where
Big
that
dog,
is.
yeah.
McGregor Lane, not far from where my son got married back in November, out there in Dripping
For my
Springs.
gastro place.
Your gastro place is way out there?
Yeah, it is.
In the country like that?
Yeah, man.
Sure, that's not a vet.
What the heck? Are you
No,
the
dude.
animal hospital or something?
I will be attending yes, I got to get another one of those deals done.
A gastro thing. We'll get back to that Longhorn basketball team. It was a rough one last night. Poor start, as we've seen, come to know. Rally back in, and then really no offensive identity down the stretch. And TCU just hammered the Longhorns on the glass. We'll talk about it, the issues and where they're going. Also, we mentioned we'll check it out at the Rodeo Barbecue Cook-Off. We've got some heavyweights at the NFL Combine talking about Bijan Robinson. Just how good is this young guy? We'll talk about it. It's Beanie on the Horn. QC Kinetics, folks, two great locations here in town to get you and help you through your pain. It really is the name of the game. It's relief. And the one thing I can tell you for sure about QC Kinetics is all they want to do is talk to you. No consult, no commitment by calling and setting up the appointment, getting in there and learning about these regenerative treatments. It's regenerative therapies. It's the ability to you'll finally get through your chronic joint pain in your knees and your hips and your shoulder and your back. I mean, obviously the remedies have been masking the pain with pain pills and injections of steroids, and that the risk of going surgery. Let's go that way. Try our friends at QC Kinetics. Talk to them, learn about it, learn and let them introduce you to folks who've been through the treatments and have seen the tremendous results. They can help you with that. The testimonials are off the charts around Central Texas from folks who have gotten the relief with regenerative medicine, restoring that damaged tissue, dealing with the arthritis and the old sports injuries in your knees, in your hips, wherever that affected area is. And all you have to do is call them. 512-593-4303. That's 512-593-4303. It's QC Kinetics. B&E with you. We'll check in out at the Rodeo Austin Barbecue Cook-Off, one of the features of the early month of March every year. Just discovered that our producer, Ty, who I would have sworn, probably would have bet one of my kids that he had been before to the barbecue cook-off, because that seems like something Ty would like to do, eat barbecue and drink beer all day and meet some great people. Ty has just informed us he's never been to that.
Come on, man.
Come on, Tyrus. You lived here your whole life? Never been out to the cook-off?
I've been to the rodeo.
Well, I was trying to explain to him, because we're going to go out there tomorrow and do some, because we're influencers now, Buck. We're content creators. We're going to be doing some social media. Ty and I may actually get on the Ferris wheel together and do some Ferris wheel.
Yeah, please take some pictures of that. I don't do Ferris
wheels.
See
how many beers I can drink in one.
You'll do the heavy Bud Light drinking, and I'll take the camera shots. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have a little bit of fun out there, and then, of course, it's all day Friday, and Friday into Saturday, and Saturday's the big day out there. We'll check in. It's going to be a lot of fun. But Ty informs me, I had to explain to him where the Expo Center was. I was like, you used to go to Ice Bats game. Oh, that's the Expo Center? Yes, that's the Expo Center.
Yeah, that's what they call that.
And you live out that way. I'm like, it's not far from your house. I promise you. You live east. We'll be able to get out there. We're looking forward to that this weekend. This nasty weather of today, even severe weather we've been dealing with. You said your commute in this morning at 4 o'clock was one of the
scariest ever,
most treacherous you've had.
Yes.
And we've done ice storms and
absolutely
hailstorms, and there was some serious rain. And it's amazing because I was driving in at a similar time and didn't get but just a little mist. I mean, it was that storm kind of went above
You don't deal
Austin.
with that Fitzhugh Road.
Yeah, I deal with that 35.
Yeah, that's true.
And when it's a gully washer on 35, that's no fun.
And it's slow at the one spot there, no matter what time of the day it is.
Down the hill?
Down the hill. Down the hill. What is it that they're looking at when they're going down the hill? Is there something to the side over there? Is there like naked girls or something?
It's really a freak of nature. It is. And because I live at Onion Creek, the parkway there, right in Onion Creek. And so I come out there, whether I'm going north or south. But if you're going south, like towards Buda, and you go up that hill, it is amazing how normal people, I guess they're normal, just drivers, will, for no reason, crawl up that hill at 40 miles an hour. Like,
why? Is there
why?
There's no rubbernecking going on. What is there to rubberneck and
like
see?
People in the fast lane that are, I guess it's going uphill. I don't know, because those semi trucks they have to get in the middle. Like they patrol that, because if you're an 18-wheeler, you got to get over in the right middle, because you're hauling, tons up that hill. So you're gonna, especially if they come out of traffic, they're going pretty slow. So they got to move over. But then there's like normal passenger cars going 35 miles an hour. Like, what are y'all doing? Go. Speed limit is 65. Let's at least hit the gas. I don't know. It's amazing.
Let's at least hit 55.
Then they do the same thing coming down the hill.
They start slowing up.
It's unbelievable. But I guess people don't like hills. I don't know, on a freeway, highway, major interstate. Hey, Buck, in addition to the barbecue cook-off, we'll get back into the combine, including some heavy hitters weighing in on Bijan Robinson. Today is the day the defensive linemen and linebackers will hit the field and actually start doing their on-field drills, 40-yard dash, weight room, bench press, all that. So we'll be watching. That's Moro Ojomo. That's Keondre Coburn. Also DeMarvion Overshone, who I'll be interested to see DeMarvion. He is a really good athlete. In an era of more and more popular positionless football concepts that you hear Rod Babers talk about all the time, that kind of fits what DeMarvion Overshone's all about. He can do a lot of different things on a football field, and can he show that? Because there are some that thinks if he has a good combine and some good interviews, he could be maybe a third-round draft pick into the National Football League. Certainly fourth, and that's kind of where you're seeing Ojomo and Coburn. Of course, we know Bijan goes off the board pretty high, and then Roschon.
What they won't do is they're not going to change him back to being a safety. He'll be either outside or inside, and
think
be a specialist.
Think about the Dallas Cowboys safety, Jaron Kearse. Think about a player like that, right? Big guy, long arms, can cover, but then can come up and be physical. That's the kind of player he can be. I don't care what you call him. He's just on the field making plays. He can cover tight ends. But, at Texas, in his years, he moved positions, and he was learning a new position and then a new position. You wonder if his best football is ahead of him, because the way he plays kind of fits where they're going in the National Football League. I don't wonder if Moro Ojomo's best days are ahead of him. He came into football at such a young age, and you saw him play at Katy when he was 16 years old as a senior. He's
a plugger. I wish he were taller. How's that? How's that for that little semi-negative thing?
I see Keondre Coburn as a little more of a plugger. Remember, Coburn is the one. Keondre followed Ed Oliver at Houston Westfield. Remember Ed Oliver?
Yes.
Playing for the Buffalo Bills. He was a game wrecker at Houston for Tom Herman. They went to the same high school. Keondre came behind him, so he he was a high star-rated player, but at Texas he kind of underachieved for the first couple of years, and boy, did he come into his own this year. Push and pressure, and both of those two players have worked themselves into second-day draft picks in the National Football League, or at least high third round, or high day 3 kind of picks. So looking forward to their workouts at the Combine. We won't see Jalen Carter working out at the Combine. We do know that.
No.
Because he's back in Athens. He turned himself in to authorities there based on those 2 misdemeanor charges of reckless driving and racing. And it's amazing. Everybody's talking about the evading, leaving the scene and all that. He didn't get charged with that. I mean, he says he's going to be exonerated of all charges when it's all said and done. We will see. But he hasn't, based on the police investigation, they didn't charge him with not rendering aid or fleeing a scene. They have charged him with racing and reckless driving.
For now.
Well, we'll see. I don't know if will they add charges based on further investigation, or we'll follow that story. Jalen Carter says he will be fully exonerated when the case.
Yeah, I mean,
we know that's a tragedy.
It will change if he was the one who forced them off the road. If that is to be seen, if that were to have happened.
Well, I think I guess my read of that would be if they've already discovered that, they'd be charging with that right now.
Yeah.
I mean, the investigation, they would be. I mean, if he ran them off the road, well, now you're talking much more severe charges, felony charges at that point that led to the death of 2 people. At this point, he's reckless and racing.
Correct.
And they ruled that the cause of the wreck that killed 2 people and cost 2 young people their lives was high speed and alcohol.
Yes.
So, and reckless behavior, obviously, in that case. Buck, on UT basketball, the disappointing performance last night, to say the least, for the Longhorns. And it's just, it's one of those conversations that is, is it as bad as we're saying? Is it where is it for the Longhorns?
Sure it is. You've lost 3 out of 5 games. That's bad. I don't care if you're losing in the fourth, with 1 minute to go, 5 minutes to go. Yeah, it's bad. You lost 3 out of 5.
Well, they're
That's not good.
But in their last 10 games in this conference, they're 5-5. The 5 losses are on the road. They're 5-0 at home. And on the road, they've lost to number 4, number 9, number 9 twice, and number 22. And then they've got wins at home over number 7, number 9, and number 23. So, again, they won the games at home against these same teams, and then they lost them on the road. And, again, there's a lot to not like about last night. You got out-rebounded terribly.
That's the one that hurts right there.
48-20. I mean, as we said earlier, if you look at the box score, the fact that they had almost as many offensive rebounds as you had defensive rebounds.
Yeah, you don't have the big guys, but you got to be scrappers. They can't out-rebound. That's a physical, mentally, that's a mental deal. Physically, you got to get in there. Everybody's a part of that. That's not just those so-called big guys. That's everybody.
Well, I mean, that's where you give Jamie Dixon credit because, again, they didn't just out-rebound Texas. They dominated Texas on the glass, 46-28. They had they had 15 offensive boards to Texas's 17 defensive rebounds. And they had 4 guards or 3 guards who had as many rebounds as your big man Dylan DeSue.
Yeah, well, you're in a championship fight. That's a fight right there.
And it's still a 2-point game. That's what I'm saying. And the stat sheet, you played poor on defense in the first half for 20 minutes. You allowed them to shoot 62% in the first half, and they made more threes than they normally do in the first part of that game. They went 4 out of their first 5, and they only made 1 the rest of the way. After a hot start that helped them build that lead, then they kind of reverted to the bad 3-point shooting team they've been all year, but it helped them build that lead. But a lot not to like. It looks like Marcus Carr has run out of gas. Marcus Carr doesn't have his legs right now, so his jump shot is falling flat. He was 4 of 16 last night. Timmy Allen, again, against length and athleticism struggles. He wasn't able to do much last night. Again, you're out-rebounded. Your bigs, Christian Bishop and Dylan DeSue, didn't give you a lot. The freshmen.
Is that your MO now? I mean, is that it? It's been, if you look at the games, is that your MO? You don't get out of the gym and get going right off the bat?
Yeah, well, again, they allowed Baylor to shoot 60% in the second half of that game. So it's just they're kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team right now. But what I'm saying is for all these teams in the Big 12, we keep saying it, but when they get out of this conference and get into the tournament, I feel like it's going to look a lot better for all of them.
I don't like the way it looks for Texas right now. I don't like the way they're playing the game. I do. We're talking about championship play. You're playing for. I don't care if you're on the road, and I don't care what conference it is. You can't look like that last night.
It feels like they're out of gas a little bit, but
maybe,
and that becomes a challenge for Rodney Terry. Can you get them some? I mean, I don't want to say you're not worried about big picture seeding, but would a little bit of rest here in the Big 12 tournament into the Big 12 tournament be better than playing 3 games in 3 days or whatever it might turn out to be? because they do look a little bit tired. And gosh, could they win 3 games in 3 days becomes a big question. But again, at home they've been better. They've won all their home games. They're 16-1. They're now 4-5 on the road in the Big 12. I mean, it's not. I don't want to say it's a bad basketball team. They're playing some bad basketball for stretches of each game now, and that's got to get shorn up. But at the same time, TCU's playing for their 20th win last night. They're playing for big things in seeding too. That's just what this conference is. I think my biggest concern, though, coming out of this game and then the Baylor game, it's their offense, Buck. I mean, we know against Baylor they had that 9-minute stretch without scoring a point in the first half that, you can't overcome that. And then in this game, once they got it back to within a winnable game, I don't know what they're doing offensively.
There's your mental toughness. You were the championship. That's championship time,
I'll
right?
give them the credit of mental toughness for battling back on the road against that team from double digits down and getting it to a 2 or 3 point game. That's some mental toughness, and that's some grit.
Well, it sounds like the football team, close but no cigar.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, though. I'm not going to. I don't question this team's grit. They'll fight for it.
Oh, sure.
And they're not always. I don't know what's going on in the first half, but my concern for the big picture, like when you get to March and you want to make a run in this tournament and you're a 2 or a 3 seed or whatever you are, you have to have an offensive identity. What are you? What are you when you need a big bucket? Teams have figured this out with Jabari Rice that you got to lock him up in big moments. You got to really put a plus defender on him and don't go for his shot fake. He still had 16 last night and found a way, didn't turn the ball over. But when they needed a big bucket, it didn't feel like they knew what they wanted to do. It didn't feel like, okay, this is the play we're going to run. This is how we're going to get this bucket. It just seemed disorganized.
Yeah, I just got to believe that once again, I'll say this for the 1 millionth time, Timmy Allen, 6 points won't do it. He has to be that guy that's in those teens, and I don't mean 12 or 13. I mean, he's got to be 16, 17, 18 points a game. And when he plays against big guys or tall, lengthy guys, I mean, just hadn't been getting it done. It's been a while since that dude was up in 18 or 20 points. I mean, he's your leader. You got to find ways. He's got to find ways to score more points.
Well, when Marcus Carter and Timmy Allen combined for 16, and
that's not going to be enough for them to win.
No, and especially when Marcus takes 16 shots to get to 10 points. He looks tired, and this whole team looks tired, and that's. Again, it's not excuses for anybody because at the end, Bill Self's the best coach in college basketball right now. His team I think Jerome Tang's going to be voted coach of the year in this conference, but I would vote for Bill Self. I mean, that guy is replacing 75% of his production from a national championship team and they just won the Big 12, and we know how tough this conference is to reload like that and get those guys. I mean, meanwhile, Texas and teams like TCU brought pretty much everybody back. And Kansas had to replace everybody, and they still beat them. I mean, that's credit to Bill Self. Jerome Tang did a great job. And for Tech, the reason I say once they get out of this conference, because not only is this conference deep and talented, they just know they scout each other. They know each other so well. I mean, they know you got to take Timmy Allen out of his game. They know you got to pick up Jabari Rice here. You know you can't go for the pump fake and the shot fake. This is where Marcus Carr doesn't like to be. Every team knows the other team so well. That changes when you get to March, right? You get a couple days to scout each team. Can that become – because I guess my question is, as frustrated as it looks right now, does this team still have a higher ceiling than maybe we're giving them credit for?
Well, they're going to be a 2 or 3 or whatever, but if you look at the way they're playing right now, they'll be out by the second week.
Well, if they're a 2 seed, they're going to play 15, and then they're going to play 7 or 9. I mean, they're going to be heavily favored in their first 2 games as a 2 seed. And 7 or 9 can knock off 2. We know that 15 can knock off 2. But I still feel like this is a team that plays into the second weekend. I really do. Now they got to get their legs back under them. I don't know how Rodney Terry and the strength and conditioning staff can do that. How do you this meat grinder of the conference?
And then you got this tournament that's coming up.
Oh yeah, now, that's what I wonder. How do you handle? Remember, Rick Barnes didn't care about the Big 12 tournament. He, if they went one and done, see you. Good. Let's get home and rest.
Just figure out, does Bill Self care about it? I mean, or he's just got his championship?
Well, that's what I don't wonder. What Bill Self, does he care about this game on Saturday? They've already won the conference. It's done. I mean, they're too clear. And by the way, Texas's problem on Saturday is that if they lose to and Baylor and or Kansas State win,
they're looking at a 3 seed.
Texas could fall all the way to 4th in the conference. Because last night with their win, Kansas State pulled even with Texas and Baylor at 11-6. So if Texas were to fall to 11-7 with a loss to Kansas, Baylor and Kansas State can finish ahead of them in the Big 12 conference standings, which again, if you're 4th now in the Big 12, does your seeding drop? Because remember, a couple weeks ago when they were number 5 in the country, when they put out the 16, the preview look of the March Madness, the NCAA did, Texas was the number 1-2 seed at the time.
I hate for them to have to go to the conference tournament and have in your mind, we got to win this many games in order to keep where we are.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I think fresh legs may be more important than wins right now for Texas. Like this team, I don't know if they can do it, but going to the Big 12 title and going to Big 12 tournament and playing 3 games in 3 days would not be optimal.
No.
I think rest would be better, but I think most of the teams in this conference would say that right now because it's been such a grind. There could be a surprising champion there because a team at the bottom of it, like a Texas Tech, knowing they've got to win some games to get to the tournament, they may come in there with their hair
K-State played their ass off last night.
They crushed Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's dreams are crushing fast. It's really interesting because, again, back to Bill Self. I mean, does he rest? Get Jalen Wilson off his feet a little bit in this game. DeJuan Harris is point guard. I mean, they've got this thing. And I think the fact that they're going to be the regular season champs of the Big 12, I think that secures a 1 seed for them. I don't know if they're the number 1 overall seed, but they're going to be there with Houston and Alabama.
So you believe to gear this thing back a little bit may help them more than worrying about which seed you are.
This looks like a tired team. They look like a tired team to me.
They've just come out in the beginning of games. It's not lackadaisical. It's just
without the defensive intensity. If they had played from the jump like they played to start the second half to get back in the game,
and a lot of these games lately,
yeah, and
I still say it takes a lot of energy when you have to come back in the second half, and then you just have to throw your defense out there and start playing defensive ball and getting it done.
Well, and then once you got it back, I don't like what there are offensively right now. I just don't, because all year it's been Marcus Carr as the tip of the spear. Whether he's got the ball or he's playing off the ball, you got Marcus Carr. He's your leading scorer. He can get you a big bucket when you need it. Even in games when he hasn't shot the ball well, even in big moments of those games, he's made big shots. In these games here down the stretch, he just hasn't.
Lots of dribbling going on.
Lots of dribbling. The Marcus Carr show, we call it. And again, teams have scouted. And this last night was a game where Tyrese Hunter played well. Tyrese had 15 points and didn't turn the ball over. I thought he played outstanding last night, and he helped hold Mike Miles to 1 point. Mike Miles had a point in that game. The key was Damian Baugh, who had 24, and then Emmanuel Miller had 20 and 10 rebounds.
10 rebounds.
Yeah, I mean this was a team effort for and that's a Jamie Dixon kind of team where they made 4 of their first 5 threes and only made 1 the rest of the game. They went 1 for 8.
Yeah, we talked yesterday. You can't get beat down on the boards. You can't let that happen on the road, especially there.
They did badly. All right, so there you go. There's some Texas basketball. We'll have that conversation. Craig Way, of course, coming up with Light the Tower. They'll have more. Isaiah Collier through the midday. Is it panic time for the Longhorns or just a tough conference?
Yeah, for those that think about the refs, you're not going to get the call. Your Texas, you're about to leave this league.
Well, once again, you're not going to get typically to get more calls.
Yeah, of course, especially if you're out rebounding and you're aggressive like that.
There were some questionable – because it was a real physical game, and then they called some ticky-tack stuff. It was just like, really? In the game, it's a pretty good battle going on down there, guys. But I can't blame officiating in that game. It was 46-28 on the glass.
Yeah, you're going to get those calls if that's what your numbers are.
Giving up 44 first-half points. I mean, those are things you can't do and win a championship in the Big 12.
No.
All right, we'll come back. We'll check in out at the Rodeo Barbecue Cook-Off. We'll also talk some NFL Combine as we get you rolling here on a Buck Off Thursday. Taking them from you, bucked off Deion Sanders this morning. We got Buck Off for Jalen Carter if he left the scene. We got Texas basketball. Got to see if they can find some the rejuvenation. Can they find the fountain of energy here late in the season? It looks like a team that's playing on tired legs. We'll be back. B&E with you. Hey now, Viking Fence. I mean, we have a lot of good debates here on the Horn, right? Our opinions, your opinions, our thoughts, commentary. But there is no debate that Viking Fence is the premier fence company in Austin, Texas. That's undebatable. 50 years they've been doing this, still locally owned and operated. And as we always tell you, the only fence company you'll find. You can Google fence companies and you'll find a bunch listed, but only Viking. And it has their own on-site lumber mill where they mill the Western Red Cedar, 3 different grades. They know that that's the highest quality of material to use for your wood privacy fence for your home or business. So they mill it to your exact specifications, length and height and decorative style. They also will pre-stain that Western Red Cedar ahead of time with their pre-staining equipment. They've invested in that at their site. And same thing for the iron fences and gates. I mean, they have the bending equipment there, the forging capability for the iron fences, pipe bending, total thing. And that's what it's about. They control the quality of the product because they control the material, which gives you a higher quality fence, longer lasting fence. That's why they put the longest warranties of anybody on their fences. And it also brings you the most value for your dollar every single time. 837-5311 is the phone number. It's Viking Fences. Find them online. Go to that great website. You get a quote, see the galleries of work that they do. All the divisions are there. Wood, iron, chain link, perimeter security, gate automation, and everything. VikingFence.com, 837-6411. Online at VikingFence.com. When you think fence in Austin, Texas, think Viking.
It's Bucky and Aaron.
When we dance together, my world's in
To March 20 and 23, that means 187 years ago, 1836, Texas, the great state, declared its independence from Mexico. Happy Texas Independence Day. Playing some good country music this morning. And March 2nd is a big day. 90 years ago on this day, King Kong debuted, Buck. Fay Ray. Radio City Music Hall.
Wow.
79 years ago, Casablanca. Casablanca? Is it Blanca or Blanca? You like Blanca?
Casablanca.
Won Best Picture at the 16th ever Oscar Awards. That was almost 80 years ago now. Pretty crazy. And how about this, Buck? That 35 years ago, 1988, U2's The Joshua Tree won the Grammy for Best Album.
35 years ago?
Still an incredible album, Joshua Tree. I mean, U2 kind of went off the rails and Bono and all that, but love that album. Graceland by Paul Simon won Best Record.
Another great.
And the Lifetime Achievement Award for Music went to the legendary Ray Charles. All on this day, 35 years ago. Pretty cool. I know March 2nd. I mean, they had the Grammys in 49 years ago, 1974. Stevie Wonder won the Grammy for Intervisions. Amazing. March 2nd, pretty big day. And on this day, 61 years ago, Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points against the New York Knickerbockers. 100 points in a game.
He was quite the scorer, that guy.
He also had 3 ladies that day before the game.
That's what I'm saying.
20,000 total? Is that the number?
Well, he had to have like 3 a day and score 100.
Man.
And he was doing like triple headers, and this guy was unbelievable to pull that off, if you know what I mean. Hey, can we go to the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina Hotline? He is a great friend. He is also a big listener of our show, and he is set up with his Snake Farm crew at the Rodeo Austin Barbecue Cook-Off, ready to go into the weekend. He is Dale Freitag. D, what's up?
Happy Independence Day, boys.
What's up, buddy?
How's the rodeo? How's the site? Do you have a good one this year? Did you draw a good area?
They always treat us well here. Yeah, we're on the corner, like always, right below the Ferris wheel. Gives everybody an easy sight point to find us, and everybody's setting up. There's 192 spots this year.
200 teams of barbecue cookers, and that's what makes it such a fun. I know you gear up for this, and you're a competitive cooker, Dale, you and your team, but you know, this is the big one. This is a lot of fun for you. I know you spend a lot of time prepping and getting ready for it, but here we are. You're going to be sleeping out there and living at the Expo Center for the next 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, started last night. We got out here yesterday afternoon, got set up at the barbecue competition circuit is kind of like NASCAR in a way, in that it kind of starts with your Super Bowl. So like Daytona 500 is the biggest race of the year, right? And that's the first race of the year. Austin Rodeo is one of those that kind of really kicks off the cooking season. So we look forward to it every year, and you see a lot of familiar faces. You know, I've been doing this quite a while, and even though there's so many teams, there's still so many familiar faces, and it's always good to get out here and compete and see friends.
No, Dale, how about your crew? You still got the same crew intact, or you added some
free agents?
You have some free agents
in the portal?
Yeah. Are you looking? I mean, are you getting younger? Is your group getting younger at all?
There ain't a damn one of them. Well, actually, I will say we are. The only one getting younger, or the only younger one we added was my daughter.
There you go.
She won the pork chop last year.
Yeah, she's got more damn medals in the last year than I do.
Now didn't she last year win the Junior Cooker Award for the pork chop?
She did, and she'll be defending her title Saturday morning.
Oh, yeah.
She runs off to go play softball.
Yeah, she's a busy girl. For folks who don't know, Dale, go ahead, buddy.
To answer Bucky's question, our core is still intact. We've been doing this for 17 years, and our core is intact. We've got some comers and some goers, but we got some new guys that have been with us now for a little over a year, and really, really solid group, and a lot of fun. So
it is a lot of fun. You guys do it right. That's why we encourage folks to get out there and sample that barbecue Friday and Saturday. Get all the details for folks who are new to it, and like Ty's never been out there. I can't believe this. How does it go? Now Friday night you have to hand in like a specialty dish, right? And then on Saturday it's the big items, the ribs and the brisket and the chicken.
Yeah. So tomorrow, your first turn-ins are actually barbecue sauce. So there's a barbecue sauce competition, which is kind of a jackpot cash thing. It doesn't count for points or anything, but it's fun. That goes at 5, and then it's the jackpot competition, which is my favorite, which is basically anything you want to do, except it can't be a dessert, but it just has to be cooked on a smoker. So you can do whatever you want, and that's another cash. It doesn't go towards points. You pay a side pot like a Calcutta. That's a fun competition. Beans go on 11:30 Saturday morning. Then the junior competition, like I said, and also that junior competition, if there's parents out there and you're interested, they supply the pit, they supply the pork chop, they light the pit. All you have to do is bring your condiments, your seasonings or whatever, and any kid can compete, and it's from ages 8 to 17. So I encourage any parent out there that wants to get their kid involved, you can come out here and sign up day of, and that starts at 10:30 on Saturday morning as well. Chicken will be at 1:30, ribs at 3:30, and brisket at 5:30, and then a whole lot of cold beer.
Yeah, anything you put up on that slab, I got to get Ty over there, get some cabrito, because he'll hammer that down too now. You put it up on that slab, he'll eat it.
Let me throw that into the jackpot idea tomorrow night.
There you go.
You can't tell us what your secret jackpot item is, but I know you're excited about it. We'll be able to reveal that on Monday when you guys are all done and hopefully won that competition. But as I always say to people, because I'll tell people, there's 200 teams, almost 192, as you said, and once you have your wristband, once you buy your ticket in, you won't come hungry because you're going to eat a lot of food. And everybody says, well, they give you food, and it's like, yeah, they give you food, and a lot of them will give you cold beers, and it's a good old time out there.
Yes, we definitely give away all the cold beer. We give away food, and we do tastings throughout the day. So even though there's those turn-in times, which is our primary serving times where we serve those competition meats, we also do other things, like we're going to have pulled pork that we can fill in the time slots in between. So if you're walking around and you're roaming and you fall in between those turn-in times, we'll have stuff for people to eat. And when you walk around, folks, you're going to see tip jars that are out. You'll notice those tip jars are Barbecue Austin tip jars. Those aren't Snake Farm tip jars. Those aren't any other team's tip jars. And you'll notice those lids are sealed. Every dollar that goes into those, if you choose to put something in that, every dollar goes to the Rodeo Austin Fund to help these scholarships for these kids. And it's, nothing comes back to us. So anything you can do. It's $10 at the gate for adults, $5 at the gate for kids. And then outside of that, you won't go hungry and you won't be thirsty.
That is correct. It's such a great time, and the weather looks like it's rough today, but looks phenomenal Friday through the weekend. So, Dale, looking forward to it. Best of luck, and let's have some fun, and we'll see you out there, okay?
Dale, good luck, buddy.
Thanks, brother.
All right, Dale Freitag. Snake Farm, as he said, right up on the corner near the Ferris wheel is where he said. And, Buck, you'll do some walking, too, so wear comfortable shoes.
That's right.
If you're going out there, don't wear your wedges like you like to wear sometimes. You know what I'm saying?
Wedges.
It is. You're going to walk a lot because to fit 292 barbecue teams, and it's amazing. You'll see barbecue. They've got entire huge tents where you go in and people are dancing. They got live music. It is as fun of a couple days as you're going to have for $10, and then tip where you can and drop some money in the buckets.
Yeah, and Ty, if you're just laid out there from from the booze and the food, they walk right over you. They won't kick you out. They just walk over the top of you.
Yeah, if I were you, Ty, I'd Uber out there because it's not far from your house. You should do the Uber thing.
Yeah, do that old Uber thing or
Plus
ride
you
a
don't have to pay
bicycle
to
or
park.
something.
You know what I'm saying?
That's probably my plan. So, what time does it usually shut down?
It doesn't.
It just keeps going on and on.
Well, because all 192 teams, most of their crew will sleep out there.
So, if I wanted to, hang out there tomorrow night.
Yes.
Yeah, all night.
All night. You're good.
I still remember the morning that we broadcast live from out there, and we had our Saturday shows out there, and Casey stuttered. Big Case had been up all night, and I woke up and I was listening to it, and he started. You could tell he wasn't sober, let's just say that. He'd stayed up all night cooking, and he had some Bud Lights, and he started cussing. And so I drove out there, and I had to replace him on the radio that morning because it was Case.
It was Casey?
Prime Casey.
Yeah, Prime Casey, primed up.
I think I was producing that morning.
And you remember that?
That was like when I first started.
It was unbelievable. I was like, oh, no. Casey, let me go out there and help him out, which is, something we had a good time. I was going out there anyhow to be a part of it, but then I was like, let's go out a little earlier and help Casey out. But we had a good time out there. But it's always fun. We are not broadcasting live out there this year, but last year we had a real issue with the signal. I don't know what was going on. We kept dropping our signal with the afternoon guys, but so we won't be broadcasting. We'll certainly have a presence out there with the horn and Coke FM, and get on out there. It's at the Travis County Expo Center starting tomorrow night, and then Saturday is the big day. It goes all day long. And as Dale said, when they hand in the chicken, they make a bunch of chicken, and then they try to hand in what they think is the best one. They make a bunch of briskets, and then they hand in the section of the one they think they did the best job on for competition, but then they serve all the rest of it. I mean, they put it in a big old, you can walk by with a plate.
Absolutely.
And that's at all 192 barbecue pits. I mean, it's a pretty amazing weekend. So one of the great starts to the month of March will be the Barbecue Cook-Off, which launches the rodeo, which is right around the corner. So we'll come back. We'll pick up these conversations. We'll reset the top stories, get you ready for the Light the Tower program and the rest of the day here on the Horn. Buck-ons and buck-offs. Let me give a buck-on to Jalen Carter because he's been bucked off enough. How about him? He went and turned himself in last night. He's already back at the Combine, and he plans to participate. I mean, that's a stand-up guy that's going to go answer questions and do interviews with teams and do his work. I mean, obviously the justice system will take its course, but it would have been easier for him to say, you know what, I'm not coming back. I'm going to lay low.
I got to stay here, yeah.
He's back, and he's going to resume all activities at the Combine, which today
meet with teams because he's going to be doing a lot of meetings.
Well, that's going to be the important part. I'm sure his agent said, look, you need to get in front of this, and you need to be talking to these teams because I still think at the end he'll be a top 3 to 5 pick and maybe the first non-quarterback drafted when it's all said and done, but obviously that'll be vetted moving forward. Also, I got to say a buck on to the Big 12 because, Kansas continues its ownership of the conference, but the basketball has been great. And I think, as we said, into next week, today's March 2nd, March 7th continues to be a date to watch for. There's apparently league meetings for the Big 12, and this whole Pac-12 thing is coming to a head. We keep warning you on it, but more and more conversations that the Pac-12 is about to dissolve. And I'll give credit to the Big 12 because they're ready to pounce. And we heard Mack Rhodes, the AD at Baylor, say as much earlier this week. And Brett Yormark has come in and really provided a jolt of optimism and leadership to this conference. And so when Texas and Oklahoma leaves, they're in a place, as we predicted, to be the third conference. Buck. The ACC is grumbling. Pac-12 is going to dissolve, and it's going to be the Big 12 that reaps the benefits from that.
I'm going to have to call my friend Condoleezza Rice and ask her what's going on.
One thing I have to say, because I hear a lot of people talk about this, a lot of the folks I talk to around the Big 12 and with the TV side of this and ESPN, the one thing you have to factor in is the number of time zones you compete in, or regions you compete in. That's huge to TV. And one of the problems the ACC has and the Pac-12 is they only compete in one area. So, one of the things that the SEC and the Big 12 and the Big 10 offer, and that's why if the Big 12 attacks and goes and gets the desert schools and the ability to put games on in the Eastern time zone in the morning, middle of the day, evening, and late at night. Because, again, the TV networks and the streaming service are going to pay for these rights fees. They need to be able to sell advertising to pay the cost, right?
Sure.
And if you're only playing in one time zone, it limits, like the Pac-12 can't play in the morning, right? They can't play at 11 in the morning like the Big 12 will be able to. They can't. They pretty much have to play in the evening and at night. And that limits the revenue they can create. And certainly with losing the 2 Los Angeles schools, I mean, their driving power and their drawing power is much less.
And the ACC's not going to that deal there with them. They're trying to get out of some stuff. Clemson and those teams,
but again,
well,
they're going to. The ESPN's not renegotiating that. And that's what I'm saying. The ACC you would think because of the brands, but they're an Eastern time zone conference.
We're stuck there, yeah.
That's it. They play in the Eastern time zone. And, the other, certainly the Big Ten, adding UCLA and USC now can play in all 3 time zones from coast to coast, New York City all the way to L.A., and the Big 12 is putting themselves in a position to that with the additions of the West Virginias and, Central Florida coming into this conference. And that's what TV networks want. They want to be able to put TV games on Saturdays in every window of the day. And Big 12 will have that capability, and that's what pays for the fees. That's what pays the money.
Yeah, I can imagine the ACC, those teams like Clemson, on the phone 24/7 to ESPN. Please, nope. Oh no, we got you.
Well, their next push is to their own conference to not have even revenues. We get more than everybody else. We get more of the pie because we deliver more. But that leads to fractures within the conference.
Oh my goodness, you don't want that.
And there's already folks at those schools, Clemson, Florida State, maybe even Miami, that are bringing legal opinions whether we can break out of this granting of rights thing and become free agents. That's while the ACC and the Pac-12 are in trouble, it feels like, or at least the Big 12 is about to really go after it, and I'm excited for what because it's good for football in the state of Texas.
Certainly is.
I mean, we know the Longhorns are going to be fine in the SEC. They could be tough, but they'll be all right. Oklahoma's going to be good, but the other schools in the state of Texas are going to be in a really good place, I believe, in the next 5 or 10 years. And
by the way, one of the reasons is that commissioner is fantastic.
Which one?
The new commissioner.
Brett Yormark?
Yes.
Yeah, good hire. I mean, give the presidents, they hired him. They saw what bringing an outsider in with some vision and the ability to market can do, and cut deals is really what it's about, cutting deals with your TV partners. Buck, have a wonderful Thursday. Stay safe out there. Hey, there could be some more severe weather.
Look
another
out,
line
y'all,
tonight.
outside.
So slick streets today, fog, and more rain coming. But, boy, it's going to be beautiful tomorrow and into the weekend, so we look forward to that. Thank you to David Pierce today. Thank you to Mike Craven. from Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Go listen to that on our podcast, hornfm.com. Dale Freitag as well.
Looking forward to that podcast with you and Mike. That should be fun.
Starts Tuesday. Thanks for that. Eyes on Texas Pod that's coming Tuesday, part of the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Digital Network and the Horn. We're excited to partner with that. And what's better than Dave Campbell's Texas Football, man? Football in Texas. Everybody have a great one. Buck on, and we'll talk to you tomorrow morning.